water into wine. Yeah, you're used to every time. Take these bubbles, make them shine. Be my nasty, make it high. Oh, oh, turn this water into wine. Make them shine. night breathes fire. Your eyes so bright. The dark will guide us through the night. Bye, bye, my love. I'll shine for you in the dark. The sky is lonely without the sun. It cried for years, an ocean of tears. It's how it's begun. Bye, bye, my love. I'll shine for you in the dark with my tribe of stars. My tribe of stars. My tribe of stars. The night breathes fire. Your eyes so bright. The dark will guide us through the night. Bye bye, my love. I'll shine for you in the dark with my tribe of stars. 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 feel there's something here that I can't fix. Now I break, I don't bend. Ignorance is bliss. Had no idea what I was missing then. Turn this water into wine. Yeah, you used to every time. Take these buttons, make them shine. Be my nasty, make it high. Oh, oh, turn this water into wine. Make them shine. Make them. Oh. Turn this water into wine.
Welcome everybody to day 2 of the Wild Rift EMEA Championships. Day 1 saw some exciting games with some of our lesser known teams, with Weigers taking on Zero Zone, and Zero Zone looking incredibly impressive in their first series of the day. We saw a couple of janky drafts compared to what we were expecting to see, with some Garen mid and a few other melee range picks, but unfortunately for Weigers, they weren't able to steady themselves in game number 1, and it was a 12-0 stomping in favor of Zero Zone. Zero Zone would struggle a little bit more in game 2, a little bit closer of a game, and we thought perhaps this is where Weigers could bounce back, but Zero Zone's macro game was just impeccable all the way through the series, and they would take the series 2-0. Our second series of the day had Viv Esports. We thought they were going to be the favorites coming in, and we were not mistaken on that. Some real veterans of mobile esports coming onto the Rift for this series against Principality in Zero Zone. It was a closer series overall, but I think when you look at Viv versus Zero Zone coming up in the next round on the bracket, this is a massive matchup for us to look at. Day 2 of the Wild Rift EMEA Championship starts right now.
Welcome to the official Riot Games Wild Rift EMEA Championship.
Everybody round here know we get hype. Everybody round, everybody round, everybody round, everybody round,
Welcome everybody, it's day 2. The three of us are back. It's James O'Leary here, joined by Hell's Devil and Stuart for hopefully another exciting day of games. I think this is the moment where our Titans roll out onto the Rift and we get to see exactly what the teams we think are the top and what they're made of. Stuart, I'm going to throw it right over to you and get us started with a little discussion. We've got Team Queso hitting the Rift today. What are you expecting from them?
Yeah, Team Queso, new roster. It's going to be really, really interesting to see how their new members come up against Supremacy later on in the day as well. As you said, you know, the other Titans as well, Gamelord as well. It's going to be really exciting to watch them as well. And yeah, for Team Queso, we just need to see how they synergize together. Obviously, we haven't seen this new roster yet. It's going to be really interesting to watch.
Hells, you and I have the pleasure of casting Gamelord in our first series, so we will delve into the analysis. I'll let you speak in just a moment, but I think for our viewers at home, I think it's really important for us to recap the road to the Icons Global Championship with this format explainer video. Take a chance to prove yourself and your team at the official Riot Games Wild Rift EMEA Championship and get your piece of the prize. If you're in one of these regions, sign up now for the WREC Open Qualifier. And it is precisely that, open. This means any team can join at this stage. All of the teams participating in the stage are going to be grouped for the best competitive experience by Riot, with teams from the MENA region being distributed to the groups based on their optimal latency. Your journey starts here, and hold that screenshot, I'll explain everything you see now. Through a double elimination bracket full of exciting matches, only the best teams will go into playoffs. And if you do get to the top 16, your matches get to be broadcasted. Do your best, because top 4 is the place to be in this bracket. And the winner goes directly to the grand final. But if you end up in 2nd, 3rd, or even 4th place, you skip a stage and you can go wait for the rest of the teams from the Last Chance playoffs in March. Don't worry if you didn't make it yet, and stay with me because you'll still have a last chance. Now you've been training, your team is at its best, so sign up to the Last Chance Open Qualifier, where again, any team can join and will be grouped by Riot. Become one of the teams that wins the most matches in your group and secure a spot in the Last Chance playoffs. This is it. Be the absolute winner of the playoffs and grab your seat for the grand finals, where all groups will meet here for the first time. 2 winners per group, for a total of 6 teams will be traveling to our offline event in Barcelona, where we'll meet our regional champion and our deserving representatives for the Wild Rift Icons Global Championship. We'll see you on the Rift.
You better not miss.
So we're tracking our way through that open bracket. We're in the playoff stage, top 16, but we've already seen 4 teams from our top 16. So let's take a quick look at the bracket, see exactly where we are today and where our teams are facing off against each other. So yesterday, as we said, Viv, Esports, and also Zero Zone, they advanced in that first round. Hells, when we look at the bracket, your thoughts on that matchup that's upcoming, and also maybe if there are any other teams you're keeping your eyes on?
Yeah, Zero Zone against Viv Esports. Like, I didn't expect that to be a game for me to really look out for, right? But it really is. Zero Zone showed an absolutely amazing performance against Weigers. And then we have Viv Esports, who also dominated Principality. Like, Zero Zone against Viv Esports is really the game to watch for me right now, Stress.
It is, and I mean, like, then we look at like the next. So today we're focusing on Gamelord, Aphelion, Team Queso, and Supremacy, but like they will face each other next week, and then the winner will face Viv against Zero Zone. So like this top half of the bracket is stacked right now. Meanwhile, bottom side of the bracket, Weigers and Principality still have one more shot in this bracket. It is of course a double elimination, so neither of them are out yet. But importantly, to look at today's games, we've already mentioned them a couple of times. Gamelord, they're one of the Titans coming into today. They won the January Purge tournament that Stuart and I casted, as well as Team Queso, who they were the defending champions, let's put it that way, when they took Origin Series last year, representing Europe on the Horizon Cup stage. So Stuart, I mean, you and I are going to be casting Team Queso against Supremacy later. Gamelord's Aphelion, I'm going to ask your opinion a little bit on that as we head through the show. Your thoughts on those two teams? Like, is this going to be a close game, or is it a stomp as we're expecting?
I'm hoping we get some 2-1s today, but I think, you know, when we get into the talent predictions and everything, I think we will have the same sort of opinions with both of these games. You know, Gamelord, I think will take it 2-0, and I think Team Queso might be a little bit closer. But yeah, as you can see, you know, all of us voting for Gamelord and Team Queso. I hope we see some 2-1s, but I think both of them will be 2-0.
I think so as well. We've seen the recent form, and you can see as analysts and just the broadcast team in general, we're unanimous on today. Normally that means that's the moment an upset is going to happen, right? It's normally when our opinions are so lined up. That's always when things backfire. But I think that the form of both of those teams has looked so strong. But it is an open tournament. Teams have had changes to their rosters, and as we go through the rest of the broadcast, we'll walk you through all of those. But we want to hear from you at home as well. We want to hear whether you're a player, whether you're part of the broadcast team, whether you're a fan as well. This is us, like every day I wake up and it's, you know, Wild Rift Esports Day. Stuart's getting memed. That's the best thing about his tier list. Our nation being MVP of that broadcast yesterday was my favorite moment. And Ryu, who's a player that we'd not really, at least I had not heard so much of before, but like made a real name for himself on those roaming supports yesterday, right, Hells?
Yeah, definitely Ryu, like showing that he's one of the best support players in the game right now, showing a very unique playstyle, you know, that I've only seen Ryu do. And we can see on Twitter, he's doing a little bit of trash talk as well. So it's going to be especially interesting to watch him play during the games. And honestly, I kind of want to see him lose now. You know, I love these trash talking people to get backfired. I mean, of course, it's all friendly banter, but I personally really like it because it makes the games more spicy.
There's always a bit of a comeuppance when you trash talk. Now, I saw your tweet there about Queso going 2-0 Hells and how you're supporting them. So luckily, it's Stuart and I taking that game, so I don't have to like counterbalance some of that prediction. But Stuart, I know you're going to get ready for the rest of the show, so we're going to let you head off for a moment as Hells and I get ourselves closer to game one of the day. It is going to be Gamelords going up against Ascendancy. And I mean, these are two teams that... I mean, it's hard to understate how good Gamelords are right now. For me, watching them play very aggressively and very on meta. And talking about the meta, Hells, I know we've been focusing on these AP mages in the bottom lane.
Yeah, AP mages on the bottom lane are absolutely dominating the meta right now. 3 out of 4 games yesterday, we didn't even see an attack damage carry. Only AP mages, you know, like Corki, Orianna, Morgana, and stuff like that. And like, honestly, sure, that's good, but I want to see people play more off meta. It's funny that I'm saying that attack damage carries are off meta right now because it's true. And if we look at the other game yesterday, Zero Zone and Viv, they really impressed me, right? We talked about it already, but they really impressed us. And it might be like the gap between the best teams, the Titans, right, like Gamelord, Team Queso, and these teams like Zero Zone and Viv might not be as big as we think. And today we're going to find out, right? Is it going to be a 2-0 absolute giga stomp from these games? Or is it going to be a bit of a closer game, Stress?
I'm hoping it's going to be a closer game. We'll see what Aphelion have. Of course, it is Aphelion going up against Gamelords in Series 1 of the day, and Supremacy going up against Queso later. I mean, one of the things with underdogs coming into a tournament like this is the pressure is kind of off when you're like, okay, we drew Gamelords, great. We're probably going to the lower bracket, so let's just give everything we've got at this. Like, there's no pressure to actually perform at the top level. But we are getting closer to Series 1 of the day, only a couple of minutes out. Before we get to our game, we're going to go over to Stuart, who is joined by a guest for an interview.
Thank you very much, Stress. I am indeed joined by Patterson, who is the Baron laner for Zero Zone. Patterson, how are you feeling after yesterday's series?
Hello, Stuart. I'm feeling win versus Wigers. It's a good match. My team was pretty good.
Nice, really good. Yeah, I mean, obviously for yourself as well, I've seen a few games from yourself from the Spanish tournament before. You love to play these carries up in the Baron lane, you know, likes of Camille and Darius, but we saw you first pick Garen yesterday. Was that something that came into it that you had planned going into this series, or is that something you picked up quite recently?
I mean, Garen, it's a easy time to play, and it's too stronger on top lane. Darius is a good matchup versus Garen, but Garen is more be better for team fights and for the utility for the team, and that's why I pick. And it's so tanked.
Okay, no problem. Thank you very much, Patterson, for the interview. Thank you for the carry as well in solo queue yesterday. I appreciate it. And back to Stress and Hells for the rest of the cast. Thank you.
Thank you for the interview.
Thank you, Stuart. Thank you, Patterson. Where's my matching with WREC players? Like, I'm in that bracket where I'm the guy that loads in with the badge and everyone complains about me. But, like, why am I not getting carried by our pro players? This is unfair. Stuart doesn't need it. I need all the help I can get. Anyway, we are heading very closely towards our series. Shortly, we'll be there with picks and bans. But let's take a look at the rosters before we get into game. Just so that everybody's familiar with our players loading onto the Rift today, it is going to be Gamelord on the blue side and Aphelion on the red. Lonely Kid, Zefta, Ruiz, Redemption, and Hester on the side of Gamelord. Fantasy Note, Arrogance, 02, Baige, and May on the Aphelion side. I'm going to pick the player I want to talk about first, and that's Ruiz. This guy always draws bans, always has a lot of presence. We've seen him previously on Team Queso. I know that he's not the player that you normally have your eyes on, though, Hells, for when it comes to Gamelord.
Yeah, so Ruiz is obviously like a player to have your eyes on, but my personal eyes are on Zefta. That's the jungler of Gamelord, and in my opinion, nearly the best jungler in EU, just because it seems like he's carrying his team on his back all the game. And I'm not saying that because his team is bad, but I'm saying that is because he's just constantly rotating around, making those crazy plays in the jungle. And I'm expecting to see them in today's game as well, where Zefta just constantly roams around, gets the kills, makes the plays, and gets them ahead in the game early on already.
Yeah, I mean, you give this guy a pick like Lee Sin. He's like, okay, I'm just going to control the entire game from the very first minute. Yeah. That's exactly what we saw in the Purge tournament in January. And, Zefta, I think, is one of those players that we absolutely have to focus on and see how Gamelord play out. On the side, when it comes to Ruiz, I want to see how the picks and bans go for him. I know that Stuart has been keeping his eyes on these two teams as well and has some key points that we need to look into for this game.
Thank you very much, Stress. Yeah, as we mentioned already, new organizations coming into this tournament. That's a great part about open qualifiers. Aphelion has some familiar names, but also some names that we don't really know too much about. So they've really got pretty much nothing to lose in this series, and hopefully we can get some few upsets in this game. We talk about Gamelord as well on the other side. Most people's favorite for this entire tournament, with the likes of Ruiz coming in as well from Team Queso, has really allowed them to shine. And speaking of Ruiz, it's really important that Gamelord get Ruiz on a comfort pick. We know what champions he can play. He's brought out the Zed, he's brought out the Fizz, he's even brought out the likes of Ari as well, and he's so proactive in the mid lane. So making sure that Gamelord get Ruiz on a comfort pick is going to make a big difference in this series. So that's the key points for this series. Really excited for this game. Back to Stress and Health to get us closer to picks and bans for game number 1.
Yes, it's just about time. The moment. And I think there's a really key point in there because off broadcast, we've been talking a little bit about the meta and how, we've mentioned it a few times, but mages in the middle lane are not as strong right now. A lot of them are pushed down to the bottom lane. I think Ruiz might be one of the players that still wants to bring that with the Ari, which when we were casting back in January, myself and Stuart, we saw a lot of Varus picked up by Gamelord while playing like Ari in the middle lane. They also mixed in the Zed, they mixed in a Fizz, things like that. So I actually think Gamelord are perhaps one of the best equipped teams in the draft. And I really want to see that because it translates to a really aggressive playstyle from Gamelord. So as we go towards our picks and bans, really important for us to recap, Yuumi is not available as well. So one of those picks not eligible for this draft. But Hells, we've always got to look at red side. It's always going to be Jace. It's always going to be the likes of Camille. It's at the moment going to be Set as well. Although we did see Set in one game yesterday.
Yeah, we did see Set in one game yesterday. And, we have the obvious picks and bans. As we said, Camille, Galio, blah, blah, blah. But I want to focus more on the early game aggressive junglers, right? As you said, Lee Sin. And Gamelord has the first pick, so 100% you have to ban Lee Sin against them because you don't want to be playing up against Zefta's Lee Sin, right? You really don't want to have to deal with that. And we can see a Fiora ban coming through from Gamelord already. It seems more of a target ban. Maybe they've done some research on Aphelion because Fiora is not that type of champion in the current meta to be banned out. Because you have picks like Darius and Renekton that actually do pretty well into the Fiora in this current meta.
Yeah, that's fair. I wonder whether this is kind of like, okay, well, we have some room to ban because we're on blue side. Hang on a second. That is a red side Thresh ban. Respect to Hester. His support pool is really good, but Aphelion are leaving big picks open here. Gamelord can go through the rest of this draft and leave one of Jace, Set, and Lee Sin open, and they know they'll get one.
Yeah, they'll get one at least. And what Aphelion can do right now is ban neither of them. Because then, right, they can kind of force Gamelord to ban one of them. And then Aphelion right now can choose to ban 2 target picks. Because then you're going to have 3 of them open, right? And then Aphelion's going to get 2. So they do actually choose to ban the Jace, though. Seems like they really don't want to have to deal with it. And yeah, that's interesting to see that they ban out Jace.
Morgana gone. I think Camille is another one that you have to look at on the side of Aphelion banning away. Gamelord looked really strong with the Camille Galio composition that we saw. So they're just aggressive the entire game. And as you've mentioned a couple of times, like Zefta allows them to do that. So a pick like that from top lane as well can have that impact. Morgana and Varus banned away from Gamelord. Those are 2 bot lane picks that are really strong right now. Didn't see Varus yesterday. A lot of bans though.
Yeah, Varus did get banned quite a lot yesterday, and that might be pretty much the only dragon laner that's really good in the meta. And yeah, they ban away the Rakan, and I kind of expected a Rakan ban as well, because banning out Thresh is not quite enough, I guess, to support like yesterday, because Rakan is super dangerous support on that. And Set is open, by the way. We didn't talk about it, but Set is open, and it's going to be interesting to see how Aphelion decides to counter the Set, because, you know, yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how they counter the Set stress.
So now you have to take Lee, right? In this rotation, you have to pick it up, because otherwise giving Set Lee is like pretty strong. Camille as well being available, I think it's another pick that you have to take away. I then look over to like, do Gamelord go to bottom lane? Where else do they go from here? But this is a game where like Aphelion are kind of playing with fire. This is a give you 1 strong pick, but we'll take 2 and hope that our 2 are stronger than your initial first pick.
Yeah, and I was just gonna say, I hope they don't pick the Galio here, because now they leave the Lee Sin open. And this is already looking like a disastrous draft for Aphelion Esports, because Gamelord can pick up the Lee Sin right now. They can pick up a mid laner that can very easily deal with a champion like Galio. And honestly, like this is starting to look like a very easy draft to win for Gamelord. And you know, they have the Corki as well, which can very easily scale into the late game. And I'm definitely expecting a Lee Sin pick right now. Just massive aggression in the early game, kick out the Camille when she uses an ultimate, and pretty much deny that massive combo of Camille ult plus Galio ult.
Yeah, I think that would make total sense. Now you end up getting pressured on red side here, right? Where like, you know, you're going to have one losing matchup. So that must be Set jungle then. Or it doesn't have to be. We could see Set support. We have seen Set in solo lanes as well. But this is Garen Set. Could potentially double flex here. Jungle may have been dropped by Gamelord, thinking, well, there's Javan, there's Lee Sin, there's Kha'Zix. Like, there are a few picks still available. But we're going to have to see what Aphelion actually won. I do like, in principle, though, the Camille Galio. That's very, very strong. There's the Lee Sin. Like, Aphelion, if this is an ultra strong composition from what we expect in the meta.
Yeah, definitely. And Gamelord actually picks the Garen, which I wouldn't say that that's the best pick right now, because you're up against a Camille. Camille deals the true damage. Camille can shred through the Garen, especially in the late game. And they didn't pick the opportunity to pick that Lee Sin, who hard counters that Camille Galio combination. So might be a bit of a weird trap. We're gonna have to see what the game plan of Gamelord is, because obviously they still have 2 more picks left, and they banned the Diana. And you know what I'm gonna say? That's the Orianna coming, right? Like, when you ban away Diana, you're kind of starting to look for the Orianna, right?
I think so too. Although now Gamelord may very well have run a bit foul of their own thing, because if pick 4 for Aphelion is Orianna, they've left themselves with fewer counters, right? You always have that side on Aphelion to go, okay, well, you banned the counter matchup, we'll take the actual matchup. Ari banned away from Ruiz as well. I think Aphelion may be setting up for 4th pick Orianna. What I would say, though, at least on the way that I'm interpreting the draft, is a lot of my draft basis is known from the tournament that Sue and I cast in January. And it does feel like this Garen has come around, Set is added to the mix since. So I think some of the teams that have been scrimming do have these compositions that look to me a little bit unorthodox. So I trust that Gamelord's draft, they kind of know what they're doing.
Yeah, they of course have to know what they're doing, right? Because they are the best team in Europe right now, and it seems like they're taking quite a long time to ban the last champion. But yeah, to be honest, Aphelion has done quite a good job in this draft, and Gamelord doesn't even ban a champion at the end. Now, is this some mental games, or did they genuinely forget to ban a champion? That would be the real question. But it's going to be interesting to see what kinds of picks Aphelion is going to be bringing through, right? The Orianna is open right now, which is such a good pick. It's always a good pick. They go for the Nami, however.
Well, that would indicate an AD bot laner, to me at least. Maybe I'm wrong on this one, but typically, like, she works very, very well with champions like Lucian who have like on-hit passives that can use a lot out of that E. Big tank taken when the side of Alistair. There's the Zed that we've come from Ruiz. So many support bans in this game and mid lane bans. Finally, Ruiz and has to get a few picks.
Oh, we got the Vayne. Yes, that is the right pick right here. And I feel like Gamelord screwed up. I don't want to say it, but I really feel like Gamelord screwed up right there because they've picked 3 champions that cannot deal with a Vayne, which is Sant, Garen, and Alistar. So it's really going to be up in the hands of Ruiz and the Corki, wherever he's going to go, to kill that Vayne. And that is such a massive advantage for Aphelion because they can keep those 2 champions away. And if they get to the late game, they should be fine, Stress.
Yeah, this is a scary composition because Gamelord is so short range. Like, Vayne loves when people are trying to run at her and she just gets to dash and tumble and condemn and suddenly you just can't do anything. As soon as she gets stasis enchant, I think this game gets really, really tough because Zed suddenly can't blow her up and you got a Nami to heal you up. You already talked about it. Like, I think Aphelion's top side is 3 of the strongest champions that you can possibly see right now in combination. And yeah, wow. I was coming into this expecting Gamelord to like outdraft and have a really good basis, but this, in my mind, on paper now looks like a lot closer of a game than we were expecting.
Yeah, of course, the thing is, it's Gamelord, right? Because like they're incredibly good. But if you just look at the drafts, I would definitely say Aphelion outdrafted Gamelord. And that is a big thing to do, right? Because Gamelord is such a big team in Europe. Then you have Aphelion, who is like a newer team. They have done a really good job doing this draft. They've picked some very solid picks. And if they can execute it properly in a game, they might actually have a chance to take this game and potentially even take away the series, Stress.
One interaction that I think at least I had overlooked until I'm thinking it through in my head is like Set does a similar thing with Camille as Lee Sin, right? You just pick her up and you go, nope, out of the fight you go. And if you throw a Camille that's kind of got like 2 items, some of it's tanky 3 items, onto a Vayne, that's going to hurt. But we're going to watch whether that execution plays off for Gamelords as we are onto the Rift for game 1 of this series between Gamelords and Aphelion. And I really like Aphelion's draft. Like, this is the kind of Wild Rift that I love to see. But I also feel like they have to be active in the early game. Like, they have to make sure that they can get this Vayne to scale properly through the game. And if they don't, it might be quite difficult.
Yeah, they definitely have to be active in the early game, especially because they got that Lee Sin, right? Like, even though Vayne skills very well into the late game, and their whole composition really does, they have to be active in the early game, because otherwise Gamelord is going to run you over. Because you're playing up against a jungler like Zefta, who is obviously going to be doing some crazy rotations to get his team ahead in this game.
For sure, for sure. And Zefta on this set, I think if there was one jungler that I really want to see on a pick like Set,
seem to be having some issues with Redemption right here.
I don't know whether Redemption... I thought for a moment he might have just been tanking the wave, but it looks like he is actually disconnected perhaps from this game. We hopefully will get an update on that, as obviously that's less than stellar in that bottom lane. Meanwhile, top lane is where our attention is going to go from this, as Lonely Kid trying to spin his way out. As Lonely Kid does survive, it is Zefta in that top lane. They did in fact pick up that kill on the Corki as... top lane picks up a kill for themselves. Fantasino trying to run his way away as Ruiz can't quite get past the Galio, and backing away. It's 1 kill either side of the Rift. Unfortunately, I do believe we are going right into a pause as that bottom lane exchange on Redemption has, of course, thrown a little bit of a spanner in the works on that game. Not the start of the game that we were expecting. Much more on the top side, where it's like, hey, we're getting Zefta being active into the Rift. But that's a rough start for Gamelord.
Yeah, we can clearly see already, right? Gamelord, they won that top lane match. They won it. Even though Lee Sin ganked, who's supposed to win early game, Zefta was ready. And Ruiz was ready as well. So Zefta came to the rescue and Ruiz came to the rescue. They were first and they won that fight. They got themselves 2 kills back. And yeah, of course, unfortunately, Redemption was AFK. I'm sure if he wasn't AFK, they would have just gotten ahead in this game already and started their snowball already, because you could clearly see them setting up the game for a victory already.
Yeah, I think that it's so impactful in this bottom lane. I don't know that we need a replay of Redemption being the bad manners. Oh, that's so BM that we're replaying that. I mean, you know, if this is solo queue, I'm like, yeah, okay, I'm gonna take that kill. Like, if it's ranked, I'm like, get the kill. I don't care about AFKs because it's always gonna happen to your team, so you may as well take it. In competitive, I'm like, pause the game, please pause the game. That's really unfortunate that that's happened. I hope we can get an update on exactly how that's going to play out. Unfortunately, players are playing, of course, online, which gives us a little bit more of a tricky situation when we do run into issues like this. I do hope there's a resolution for Gamelords. I do want to focus a little bit more on the compositions, though, and maybe some of the changes that we've seen in the draft. So Set has kind of like thrown the draft into a little bit more chaos, where he's been let through a couple of times. But we've also seen this Corki presence quite a lot. Like, any thoughts from you on like how this Corki fits into the meta right now?
Yeah, the thing about Corki is he kind of has both of it. He has the mage part and he has the attack damage carry part, right? Like, he deals a lot of magic damage. He has the range and he has that package. And I feel like that package is the thing that gives him the advantage. That's what making these teams pick him, because these objectives are so important, right? Especially the first objective. You're basically always going to have an advantage in a fight when you have a Corki in your team with the package. So I feel like teams are leaning more on that compared to these early game presence champions or just, late game champions. Corki really has it all.
Yeah, and like Corki package does ridiculous damage. It has a knockback. Also allows him to escape if he gets caught out for that entire duration. So I think it's one of those picks that I wasn't expecting so much right now, but he does fit that role of like, can be played mid lane, can be played bottom lane, and gives you flexibility. So it's not too surprising now that we've seen a couple of games to see how high priority he is. But like Corki, Garen, definitely not my read on the meta coming in, but I'm really glad to see that there are these different changes like week to week, month to month, because the patch cycle has been less this year than last year. So I feel like there have been less impactful changes, and teams are starting to go like, okay, what if we play Corki in the bottom lane? What if we do this? Because there's been no changes and he's quite a safe carry. So any other changes to the meta that you've seen that you're like, oh, maybe we weren't expecting that, or something that is out of the ordinary?
Well, for competitive, to be honest, not really. I'm really trying to think about some, but like if we look at a competitive perspective, not really. It's just the same, right? Like you play AP mages, you play Camille, Galio. Well, we're not seeing Renekton for some reason. I still have to figure out why, but Renekton is still definitely one of the strongest Baron laners in the game. And I actually want to talk about the Garen right now, because you know something is wrong if Garen gets picked nearly every game in a competitive game, right? Can you imagine how bad it's going to be in like lower elo? Because Garen is, Patterson mentioned it as well against when he was talking to Stuart. Garen is an easy pick. He literally said, I can just very easily win my lane with Garen, and the champion is just so strong. So that's why we're seeing teams prioritizing a pick like that. But Aphelion was ready for it. And that's what I really love about this team. Because as you can see at the draft on the bottom, they picked Vayne and Camille. True damage is the way to counter Garen, right? Because Garen with his second ability blocks out damage, but of course he cannot block out true damage threats.
Yeah, exactly that. And the term skill expression exists for a reason, and that's meant to be like, oh, how flashy is a champion? How skilled do you have to be? Is it like, a Yasuo, which is slightly more technical, or is it just Garen, where you push one button and you run into somebody and then you hit them a couple of times and ult and then they die? So I totally agree that like any meta where Garen just gets to sit in lane and doesn't really get pressured too much, and then just can tank a Nexus 10 times yesterday, like we saw for Patterson. I'm like, this feels a little bit too simple for Baron lane, if you ask me. But in this game, I mean, as much as Garen is a little bit broken, like I feel like Camille is perhaps a little too over-tuned on mobility, at least right now. I think when she gets ahead, it's impossible to kill her in the side lane.
Yeah, Camille offers way too much. Like it's as simple as that. Camille offers way too much, but only to the skilled player. And of course, during these competitive games, nearly all of the players are skilled players. So a pick like Camille, especially because Galio was also very strong, is super dangerous. And you have to revolve your draft against that. Like that's going to be your main focus. If the enemy picks Camille, you have to counter that Camille. Because yes, as you said, if Camille is able to get to the late game, she's unbeatable. She is probably the strongest late game bruiser. She deals so much damage. She's so tanky. She just really provides it all. And then that ultimate that provides a cage around the enemy that you cannot escape for 4 seconds. Like Camille is just insanely nearly, like I would almost say broken right now in competitive.
Yeah, I kind of agree on that case. Like for when you look at especially bot lane carries, I think that always is the target for a champion like Camille, where you're like, okay, if I just trade my health for the life of the bot lane carry, we win the fight no matter matter what. And then you take away the mobility of a champion like Corki, who now can't Valkyrie out, like can't get clear of the Hextech ultimatum. So it looks like we are loading back onto the Rift. It is 1-1 after that unfortunate disconnect it looked like in the bottom. But Hester wants to go back aggressive as Redemption and Hester. We're going to have to see whether they can deal with that. Importantly, I mean, the kill went over to Vayne. And as unfortunate as it is the game that will continue to play out. And Vayne getting a kill this early on now gives her quite a good foundation to build into the rest of the game.
Yeah, so they resumed the existing game. And even though they won that Baron lane skirmish, I would definitely say this is quite a severe disadvantage for Gamelord because Vayne had a free lane. The first 2 minutes were free for Vayne. And I feel like this might be a sign for Aphelion, like, okay, this is our sign, right? This is what we're getting, and now we just have to win the game. And as you can see, you know, little skirmishes between Camille and Garen. Garen is not going to be able to kill a Camille. Camille counters Garen. And yeah, if Camille gets a free late game, then they just win the game, man.
Yeah, I feel like one way that Gamelord basically need to force this game is with Zed, like picking up a bunch of kills on Vayne pre-stasis enchant. I wouldn't even be surprised to see Vayne get stasis after first item. I know that sounds really dumb, but like Vayne, all she needs is stasis, and that's a top lane kill from the Garen. Looks like just with the level advantage, picking up that kill immediately on Fantasy Note.
Yeah, definitely. And this all comes from that early game gank from Zefta. And even though, you know, Garen cannot easily beat a Camille, he had a level advantage. He used his ultimate and killed the Camille. And the beauty is, he's very likely going to have his ultimate back for the Dragon Zone. As we look into the replay, he just dived there, ignite, you know, procced his rune and Grasp of the Undying and easy ultimate. That's like the thing that Garen can do, where you can just very easily get a kill like that with Grasp of the Undying doing a lot of damage every single time as well. And yeah, and the beauty is right now he's going to have his ultimate, he's nearly going to have his ultimate for an objective. They just got to wait a little bit. And if we look at the items right now, Gamelord has many more items. Almost all of them have finished an item. And Aphelion is still stuck on you know, the tier 2 items.
Yeah, I mean, we just watched Garen kill Camille through her shield as well. Like normally that shield does quite a lot of work. Not today for Fantasy Note, as Lonely Kid certainly is having his advantage in the top side. We've had that swap into middle lane from our duos. We said yesterday Vayne struggles in this situation because she can't output as much crowd wave clear on the minion wave. You can see her getting pushed in here by Redemption, and it does allow Gamelord to transfer their pressure up towards this Rift Herald. Still 1700 health on it, and that's going to be the first kill down. Oh, not quite, as the heal does keep Lee Sin alive. It is stolen away by Corki, and that is how mid lane presence backfires against Aphelion. This is a huge team fight, as Camille is going to ult to try and skip the damage, but it's not enough as Hester locks her down for another kill. 5-1 overall in this game, plus the Rift Herald go to Gamelord.
Oh, what a disaster for Aphelion Esports. The idea was good. They tried to go for that Rift Herald, but as you mentioned, Vayne can just not clear out the mid lane fast enough. And what happened is Vayne was not available for the Rift Herald fight, and they weren't fast enough to get it. As you can see, Lee Sin was just desperately trying to secure the Rift Herald, but Corki package, and then you have 4 people of Gamelord just taking you out of that Rift Herald. Meanwhile, Seth is just taking the dragon for free. Just Gamelord playing this game perfectly. As we talked about, even though the draft may look okay for Aphelion, Gamelord is just much, much better. They're playing the macro game absolutely perfectly right now.
Yeah, one way that I've heard League of Legends coaches talk about this and around mid lane is about earning the push and earning river control. Is if you don't push mid lane out before you go to an objective, you have to be prepared to be punished. Because if the enemy can just walk up into the river and contest you, you lose the objective almost every time. And I didn't even notice that Zefta had taken Dragon at that point. The rest of the team doing such a good job of contesting that Rift Herald. And this is what we said about Gamelord. Aggressive. They're very, very quick to fight when they know they have the advantage. And just like that, despite the fact that Vayne got that kill to begin the game, Aphelion just haven't been able to have control of the map. And that means they don't have control of anything right now.
Yeah, they don't really have control of anything, and I just really love how Gamelord knew exactly what they were doing. Right? It can be very scary to leave your jungler alone. You know, they left Zefta alone on that dragon, but they knew.
Oh, okay, they knew. Sonic Wave didn't hit, and I thought Zefta was going to go for it. He might still go for it. Doesn't quite hit, and it's going to be the tower pressure though.
Yeah, like Gamelord is just running this game over. What are we supposed to say? They're completely running over Aphelion Esports. It's like they're on a whole different league, and I wanna say they're on a different league macro-wise. Because they're constantly roaming around. As you can see, their playstyle is sticking together with 4 people and then having another player on the opposite side of the map. And they're doing this because you don't want to be running around as 5 people. The simple reason is because then you're just not efficient. Someone needs to be pushing out lanes, because otherwise you're going to lose golden experience, and they're trying to catch out the Galio.
Is going to go for 0-2. Will go in with the death mark. It's a lot of damage down. It's enough to force him back away from the lane itself. No towers, they'd already taken it. And as you said, like, they're taking control of sections of the map and then setting up for dives. It didn't work out the way they wanted in mid lane, as they were kind of waiting for Baige to get into middle lane and then you dive him from behind. But the timing was a little bit off. Lonely Kid this time is the one maybe caught, but he's a Garen, has a lot of health, is going to survive through. And despite the fact that that's a Camille and a Lee Sin, Garen just goes, okay, I'm going to stay at full health.
Yeah, he's a Garen indeed. That's the only thing you have to say. Garen can easily survive that, up until we reach the late game, Garen is pretty much going to be unkillable. Up until we get the true damage coming from Camille and Vayne, basically no one is going to be able to kill Garen. And basically, the way that Aphelion can deal with this playstyle of Gamelord is don't die. Because Gamelord is with 4 people, and they're not playing it very efficiently. It's only efficient if they get kills. But if Aphelion can survive these 4-man ganks, if they can survive those towers and just be able to push out waves, they should get ahead of this in the long term. But of course, they are not up until this point.
Yeah, they haven't been able to yet. I was watching the minimap a little bit, and you can track how quickly Ruiz can see that Baige on this Vayne is pushing out mid lane, and every single time the wave comes in, somebody is there to threaten Vayne. Somebody is there to push her back. And now Ruiz is back down on the bottom lane. He's like, oh, I'm going to push out this lane. We know Garen is pushing in the top lane. And the objectives are coming up as well. Rift Herald here will help them break middle lane. And you can see Gamelord already on this neutral objective. And with basically a 5,000, nearly 6,000 gold lead between these two teams, there's no real way to contest here. The package is up too. This might be the Dragon going over Gamelord's way as well, because Ruiz is defending from Arrogance on that Lee Sin around the Dragon. They haven't even been able to start it.
Yeah, they're not like, you can see Ruiz is just walking around. He's like, nah, you're not gonna get the Dragon. We're gonna get everything. And this is what I mean, right? The playstyle where they're playing with 4 people around one place of the map and then the other one around the other. Up until this moment of the game, they've continuously been doing it. 4 people taking the Rift Herald, Ruiz waiting at the Dragon. And now they're basically securing a free Dragon. If Lee Sin goes in, he should die.
Yeah, and you can see they wait until it's kind of half health, then they come down and cut off the rest of the team just to ensure it's not a 1 versus 1 coin flip. There's no real opportunity in the middle lane either to take out Corki, because he has that package, Extended Valkyrie. So even if Camille starts jumping at Corki, you have enough time to just back away.
Yeah, and like this game just feels like you like if you're playing in Aphelion's shoes right now, how do you play against this Gamelord roster right there? They're just so powerful, they're so strong. It doesn't feel like you can do anything against it. And now they're pressuring the mid lane as well with the Rift Herald. They may even be able to get 2 turrets right now, Stress.
Yeah, Arrogance is going to go in, but he's going to get caught and immediately taken down. Was not prepared to defend against the 4 members of Gamelord that are there. And it's the pace of the game that is smothering. That's a double pull in as they're going to get the set damage down. First kill goes over to Ruiz onto the Nami, and Vayne trying to open up as much damage as she can with those silver bolts, but it is not enough. And Baige has to run back away. Still only the 1 kill on the game for Aphelion. 2 members die as 2 turrets fall as well.
Yeah, well, and what I always like to say is the game is never over when you have a Vayne in your team, but in this situation, the game does look over. And if you look at this replay, beautiful flash from Zafta, pulling in these enemies and stunning them. And yeah, they're engaging in Alistar with the ultimate, tanking up the turret. They're all doing their job, basically. Every single member of Gamelord is doing their job. Garen didn't even have to do his job because he was that one player that was not there, right? We talked about it earlier. They're playing 4-1. 4 people somewhere and then 1 somewhere else. Garen was somewhere else. He was joining the fight in case they needed them. And we have an invade here.
Oh, for Arrogance, that feels so bad. You're like, all right, I'm going to get a small win. I'll get the blue buff. And then Lonely Kid blocks the Sonic Wave and starts running at you. And you're like, all right, I guess I don't even get the blue buff. Ruiz is going to try in 2 versus 3 with Hester on this bottom lane. It's the pace of this game. Like, Gamelord are bouncing from objective too quickly for Aphelion to actually get any kind of a grip on the game at all. And they, as you said, they need to buy time for Vayne, but there's not enough time in this game when they're nearly 12,000 gold down already, 11 minutes into the game. This is real smashing, and it's only really a matter of time before that Baron comes up and they're forced into a fight. It's just a question of how many towers they lose before that, so the game will get even more items.
Yeah, like I don't really think you can snowball a game more than what has happened right now. It has been a 1k gold lead per minute. You can see Arrogance is not even bothering going in, even though he is playing the Lee Sin. He has already reached that late game stage where Lee Sin is, not useless, but you cannot just go in anymore. And if you've reached that stage at 11 minutes already, the game is not going well when you're playing Lee Sin.
Yeah, you're a kick bot at this point of the game, and there are not many targets that you can actually find and keep a hold of. Baron's going to be up in 45 seconds. The package is up as well. The timing on this could not be better for Gamelord. They can grab that package as soon as they want it, go for the Baron, look for a play off this, and really look to ramp up the game, because we've already said there's not really a whole lot of wave clear on the side of Aphelion, so Baron minions are a death sentence.
Yeah, unless Aphelion is able to get a pick, which doesn't really look like they can with that composition, because they have the Vayne, right, with the sustained damage. But unless they can get a pick, a free kill on the enemy, I don't really see a way of them winning a team fight right there. Like, really no way, especially if Gamelord stays together for the Baron and we have a fight.
It's a pick on the side of Gamelord, because Ruiz has gone in with the death mark. There's enough damage down to force the stasis out from Lee Sin, as Arrogance will connect with Sonic Wave, but this is still 4 versus 4. And Gamelord have such a significant advantage that they force Lee Sin back. They may very well look for a pick in the topside jungle and then rotate over towards the Baron, because they know how healthy they are. Garen is going to run down 0-2 in that top lane and put the damage down there as well. Galio now half health. There's no way of Aphelion to actually have full health bars coming into this fight. And there we go. Here is the engage out from Hester. Catches 2 on this Alistair. He's the one caught in the Hextech ultimatum, but that's the support. He's tanky with all of that damage reduction running. Set tanks up so much for Zephyr. He survived for so long. And the rest of Gamelord are trying to hold on. Galio is going to proto belt out. Aphelion have at least managed to stabilize. And look at the damage coming out from Lonely Kid. No kills going on the favor. I wonder whether Aphelion should just back out of this and cut their losses.
Oh, that was a close fight, Stress. That was a close fight. And I like, Redemption nearly got punished super hard for not even bothering to get his package. They engaged. They thought that it would be a free fight, but they nearly lost the fight right there. You saw it was super close. They even lost Zefta in the process. Aphelion is getting ahead in this game. I mean, of course, if Corki had a package, if Redemption had actually gone back and taken the package, there would have been no way that Aphelion would have won the fight. And they're trying to rush the dragon right there. This is a good call from Aphelion. Trying to get this dragon. Yeah.
It is a good call, because they have a smite. Set just sold his boots from Stoneplate to get teleport, and here comes the package attempt into the backline. If they can get Mei and potentially Baige, this is a very easy fight for Gamelord to take down. They're going to get the dragon. They will rotate over towards the Baron, so Gamelord will stabilize after a very scrappy fight. But, that was a little bit of the presence that Aphelion could have had, but they are so far behind.
Yeah, Gamelord was way too fast. I wasn't even able to finish my sentence. The reason that it was a good call, because it was one of those desperate plays that you kind of have to make. They were doing it without vision, and you kind of have to go for it. If they don't, then how are they going to win this game? Because right now, we see the Baron being taken, and it's just going to be a desperate play, Stress.
It's Super Bowl night, so this would have to be one Hail Mary to pick up this Baron for Arrogance, but it's going to be the fight as Baige is going to get dropped almost instantly to start this fight off as Ruiz picks up that kill. The Hail Mary just does not connect. This is no way to convert it for Aphelion, and a Gamelord may not even need the Baron to close this game.
Yeah, there it is. It was a nice try by Aphelion. They did a good job in that team fight. They tried to get the dragon to get that damage, but unfortunately they weren't able to. And yeah, if that's the case, you're never going to win a team fight against Gamelord when they have a package. Up until now, you're just never going to win it. And they're just going to close out the series right now. Only Nami is there to defend. We have a 15-minute game. Quite expected. Even though Aphelion had a pretty decent draft, Gamelord is just way superior over them.
Yeah, Gamelord taking game 1 against Aphelion, and we said they were aggressive. We said that the macro play was what we were expecting to take Gamelord through this. And it's what happens in game. Like, that was a really well played out game from Gamelord. I was a little bit worried with the disconnect. I thought perhaps Gamelord might very well not even be in the game. Luckily, we're able to reconnect, get things working again, and get their way back in. But this is why we've been talking about Gamelord for the last 2 broadcasts, because they are so fun to watch when they're making aggressive plays like this.
Yeah, they're so fun to watch indeed. And here we can see some of their team fights. They were just completely dominated Aphelion, and that's mainly because they had 4 people up against 3 people of the Aphelion Esports roster. Just their rotation has been incredibly good. But I want to say one weakness about it though. If this is their only way of playing a game, you can counter it very well, right? So I'm really hoping to see some different types of rotations as well. I don't expect them to do that against Aphelion, because of course they don't want to reveal their tactics yet. So in the next
Right.
game, they may do the same thing just because they feel like they can just win easily anyways. But yeah, in the next series, it's going to be very exciting to see what they have in petto for these teams.
Yeah, I think so too. I think the interesting thing for me is I completely agree with you. I want to see what else they have. The funny thing is, you could have flipped these drafts and given Gamelord the Camille Lee Sin, and I'd be like, yes, that's Gamelord. That's how they play. It like makes total sense. So I'm like, I think they just have such a strong basis on like team fighting, and in the Purge tournament we saw Formulation playing up against Gamelord, who are one of the other teams in this open bracket, and Formulation looked really good against teams like WREC and a few others that we were expecting to do well, but then Gamelord just smashed them like with this aggressive play style in the finals. It just wasn't even close, and it's really hard to argue with the way that they smother their opponents. Like, you see them take one fight, move into the jungle, get a pick, get another tower, get two more towers, like a Rift Herald, the Dragon. Like, every single time an objective is available to take, Gamelord seem to be there going for it.
Yeah, they nearly seem to be like a perfect machine playing the game, you know, doing those rotations perfectly, knowing what's coming, because they're just always able to counter whatever is coming. And in this game they did it as well. You know, when you get ahead 1,000 gold per minute, you know you're playing the game correctly, and that's exactly what Gamelord was doing up against a strong team like Aphelion. Because it's not that Aphelion is bad, it's just that Gamelord is so incredibly good.
Yeah, as you said, like 1k gold lead accruing per minute is that's kind of ludicrous. So hard to beat. Like, how are you going to do it? I mean, Aphelion, we had this fight where Gamelord did overextend a little, and Redemption was punished for not having the package, but that was as close as Aphelion got to really turning this game in their favor at all. So yeah, if perhaps they can steady their early game a little bit more, which is a tough ask against Gamelord,
Yeah.
maybe we can see Aphelion bounce back into it. But I actually think on the top side of the map, Aphelion's draft was really good. Other than Garen. Garen, I think, is becoming a problem, and the set does also look pretty strong as well. So yeah, I mean, we're starting to see set. Hells, you got a set game to cast. So what are your first impressions of set jungle from casting?
Well, yeah, Zefta, like, even winning like that as a set jungle up against the Lee Sin, like, what an incredible player. We didn't see too many crazy things from him, just because it was a Giga Stomp. So it didn't quite satisfy my needs to watch a set, as you can see, right? He played more of a tanky role in his team. He only did 7.6k damage. He kind of got carried by his teammates. So this was not quite the satisfactory game that I wanted to see from set. Of course, it's fine, but yeah, here we can see just a clean advantage. Very, very clean. You know, just going up and up and up and up. No bumps, no anything. Just a very, very easy win for Gamelord.
It's the Zefta effect on these champions, though. It's like the team getting ahead. He either like has the impact and goes like 10-0, or like the team just do really well, and he's like, all right, I'm along for the ride. Just carry me, team. I'll just get the objectives. Don't worry, I'll smite it down. We're gonna take a look at the play of the game from this series. I mean, from game one, I mean, there were quite a few plays that could be the play of the game. As long as it's not the disconnect kill, that would be pretty bad.
Yeah, definitely. And as you go through the play of the game, it's the play where Corki stole the Rift Herald, where they did this rotation, you know, the 4-man rotation, and they just completely out-rotated Aphelion Gaming right here. Secured both objectives, won the fight, and just literally took every single thing that they could have taken in the map right there. Beautiful play by Gamelord.
Yeah, beautiful play. I'm going to be really pedantic and say that, like, that play of the game could also include the really boring phase of Corki pushing at mid lane first. Just like farming the minions and leaving Vayne to stand there. Anyway,
that was the
play of
setup.
Game, exactly, that's what I mean. You couldn't have that play without it. But Gamelord take a very convincing game number one of this series against Aphelion. Later on, we have Team Queso taking the Rift against Team Supremacy. That's going to be a great series too. But we have game two coming when we come back in just a few minutes.
I breathe fire. Your eyes so bright. The dark will guide us through the night. Bye, bye, my love. I'll shine for you. In the dark, my tribe of stars. And I breathe fire. Your eyes so bright. The dark will guide us through the night. Bye bye, my love. I'll shine for you in the dark with my tribe of stars. 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 My tribe of stars.
Welcome to the official Riot Games WREC EMEA Championship.
Everybody round here know we getting hype. Everybody round, 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 everybody round here know we getting hype.
Welcome back, everybody, to day 2 of the Wild Rift EMEA Championships. We just saw Gamelord, one of our favorites, kind of stomp Aphelion in game number 1. There's not really any way of sugarcoating it. I would love to sugarcoat it a bit more, but we're going to have to see it a bit more from Aphelion in game 2. I thought they had a good draft. Hells, I know we talked a lot about the Camille, the Galio synergy, the Lee Sin. Looked really strong, but this set, this Garen is coming out of the woodwork and being ultra strong in comparison.
Yeah, it's the players, man. Like Gamelord, Aphelion didn't even have a chance. Like, let's be honest here, Aphelion didn't even have a chance. Gamelord just absolutely steamrolled them, and they were probably not even playing seriously. Because as we said, that like their rotations were incredibly basic. It just really felt like they're just getting through this game and trying to not reveal their tactics. I really hope that's the case. Because yeah, but Gamelord just on a whole nother level to us.
I love that. I mean, they've revealed, though, that you need to ban Garen and you need to ban Set against them. Let's see what Stuart can reveal about game 2 coming up and see what his thoughts are as we head towards our second game.
Thank you very much, Stress. Yeah, I'm just looking at the red side bans for the first game as well, going into the second game with Aphelion. Aphelion was focusing bans on Heste. I think there was 3 bans in total, 2 in the first rotation, but they left champions open like the Set, like the Garen, and even comfort picks like Reese and Redemption got Zed and Corki. So I want to see some different bans from Aphelion going into game number 2, maybe banning out champions like the Set, etc., you know, if they are on the red side for game number 2. And going into the game itself, it's all about mid lane priority. Again, Gamelord so good with that mid lane priority, but the problem with Aphelion, they didn't really have any mages or anyone that could really clear that mid lane, and that really showed in the play of the game of the previous game. Corki being able to push up mid lane, Vayne was stuck in mid lane, and Gamelord were just being able to rotate around the map very easily. And my last point, a little bit of a funny one, don't BM Gamelords. Don't try and kill their AFK players. They will come and they will bite back even stronger. And as you can tell from the previous game, they only got 1 kill technically from the previous game. We won't count the kill on Redemption. But yeah, don't kill Redemption because he'll come back and he will haunt you for the rest of the series. But yeah, that's my key points for going into game number 2. Back to Stress and Hell, to get us into game number 2.
I love that. Don't BM. I mean, in solo queue, I'd take those kills. Oh, one thing I want to do before we get into the draft is for Wild Rift, I just want to make sure that we're defining some terms. And for viewers, perhaps, that don't watch League of Legends, I think it's really important to explain what priority is. So priority is essentially pushing a lane out and then using your minions to create vision. Because everywhere they track, you get vision. So you push a lane in mid, that means you're getting mid priority. When your minions are pushing further up the lane, it opens up the enemy part of the rift so much more. So getting priority before you move to another objective is what teams do as a basic level. I just want to make sure everybody kind of gets some of these terms. I think it's really important for viewers as we use these words to make sure that they understand. We're heading into picks and pans. We can stop talking about macro. We can talk about all the exciting things to begin the game. Aphelion on the blue side this time, Gamelord, they could just leave everything open and say, yeah, let's take it again.
Yeah, they can do that, of course, but they're not gonna do that. I feel like they're just gonna ban some picks that they may potentially be afraid of, right? Like some broken picks, like maybe the Garen, maybe the... I honestly, I don't know. They can probably deal with everything. That's the funny thing about Gamelord, because they're so good. But yeah, they ban out the Jace, right? That's one of those champions where if you give a really good player Jace, he's gonna go 6-0 in the Baron lane in the first 5 minutes. And of course, it's gonna be annoying to deal with.
Yeah, going to be really annoying to deal with. Galio ban, because that's going to be one of those picks that Gamelords could very well take on that first rotation. Rakan banned as well. Now, there's a lot of focus going on to Hester. Lot of respect for Hester, but I'll be honest, there are so many engaged supports, I don't think you can ban them all out. This is just like take away the best ones and try and leave him on something like an Alistar. But even then, we saw the last game, Hester was great.
Yeah, and see, the problem with Gamelord is that they can play so many different picks. They're so flexible. Like, I cannot tell you what they would pick because they have so many different picks. You know, all of their players can play nearly everything, and that's what makes them so incredibly powerful, and you just cannot counter them in the draft. And again, we can see the Rakan and the Thresh bans. They don't want to be dealing with Heste on those picks, and Gamelord is really just banning some of the picks that may be scary, right? They're banning out the Fiora to pick the Garen. You know, Fiora is one of those picks that can destroy Garen in the lane. So very likely are we going to see some sort of a Garen pick in the Baron lane from Gamelord. And yeah, they banned out the set as well. Again, they just don't want to deal with it. They're just banning out some of the picks they don't want to deal with. Camille first pick, again, we see a Camille first pick coming through from Aphelion. So they still believe in the Camille. Yeah.
Zephyrs Lee comes through. And now there's a few bot lane champions open. Morgana's up, Varus is up, Ziggs is up, which we haven't seen Ziggs so much. I think Ziggs has kind of dropped off in priority. I'm looking at other picks. Okay, that Corki, of course. I'm over here still talking from my meta before and that Corki flexibility on that side.
Yeah, you can play Corki in the mid lane, you can play him in the Dragon lane. Corki, we talked about him earlier, he's so powerful. But Morgana was left open actually, and I didn't even think about that. But Morgana we've seen how strong Morgana can be in the right hands. Diana open as well, which is also an incredibly powerful pick that has been banned out the majority of times. But here we can see again, Gamelord not banning out those champions, and it feels like they have counters for it because they instantly pick the Olaf. Olaf can run through the Diana ult, Olaf can run through the Morgana route, Olaf can run through her ultimate, right? So picking Olaf right here from Gamelord.
That's top lane Olaf. Because Lee Sin's already here. Like, that's not a jungle Olaf. At least I would assume so. I know some people try and play lane Lee Sin, but like Zephyrs Lee is so good. I don't know why you would opt not to do that. So now we look at bans. Like, so Kha'Zix is banned, another early game jungler that's going to be taken off the board. I guess they're going to continue this support ban loop from Aphelion because you've already started. So just keep banning him. Like this, technically, because Galio can be a support, every single ban for Aphelion has gone towards Hester in some way.
Yeah, they've banned 4 supports, really. They've banned Galio, Rakan, Thresh, Abram. And come on, finish it up with one last
Alistar.
support pick, just to make it fun.
Ban Alistar. Like, the last one. Just every single thing going to Hester.
Oh, yeah. And as we're waiting for the ban that's going to come through from Aphelion, I don't think they'll do that, but it would be funny if they did. Yeah, Alistar, they cannot pick it, because Olaf destroys Alistar with the 2 damage. And they do! Yes, they do! They banned Lulu away as well.
You have to, when you see an Olaf, you have to ban Lulu, right? This combination is too strong. It's what Yuumi will be next week or the week after, whenever Yuumi's available.
Yeah, Olaf Lulu is one of the strongest combinations in the game, right? Where Lulu is able to constantly buff the Olaf. Olaf uses his ultimate, becomes unstoppable, and runs right through whatever you have to offer. And we finally see a Renekton pick coming through as well. So again, like, Aphelion's draft is looking very strong, but we know how good Gamelord is. is the same thing gonna happen in the next game?
The thing is, Aphelion have... Oh, okay, so Morgana's support is what's coming out. I was going to say, Aphelion have banned out so many supports that if they weren't going for Morgana, Mei is in trouble. Garen Okay, we're going full melee range. Full melee champions for Gamelord. So that's a Garen, that's an Olaf, and a Lee Sin on the top side. So if you fight them early game, they will do damage, because Camille needs a little bit of time. Diana does need a little bit of time to get some damage. Renekton, however, for Aphelion is the one that I need to watch out for in the early game on their side.
Yeah, and I'm sure Zefta is going to be constantly ganking that Renekton. I'm sure, they're going to be baiting that Renekton in the Baron lane right there with Lonely Kid, showing the Renekton, hey, look, there's a free kill, and then boom, you have the Lee Sin coming through, getting that kill, and then it's already going to be a free lane for the Garen. I can already predict that that's going to happen in this game, so it's going to be interesting to see how Aphelion is going to be able to play around that. How is their vision game going to be, especially in the early game, to see Zefta coming on that Lee Sin, because he is obviously going to be ganking lanes. That's how Lee Sin works.
Yeah, I'm guessing this is Camille jungle then from here. In the way that we have the setup. And then, honestly, for Aphelion, for my taste, I feel like they lost so quickly in the last game that opting for a late game carry like Kai'Sa is probably going to mean that they're just not going to get into the game if it's a very similar thing. Varus was available this game. I wonder whether that would have been one way of pivoting here, but that's just my, again, drafting from a previous patch perspective. I'm excited to see, because these are very different compositions to what we've seen, especially on the Aphelion side. One of the first times we're going to see Diana picked up. Haven't seen a whole lot of Camille as well, and Renekton. So a lot of dive buddy potential on this composition. If they get it to work, use that Diana ultimate to blow people up. That might very well be a team fight that can work for them. But last game, they fell so far behind so quickly that if Gamelord do that again, they're going to run away with this game, quite literally.
Yeah, and the thing is, they have a lot of these big ultimates, but the Olaf-Nami combination, how are you going to kill that Olaf? These insane ultimates of those champions are not going to do anything against Olaf, and I feel like that is the power of Gamelord in this draft right now, the Olaf, and if they can manage to get him ahead, then it's Ruiz on Olaf in mid lane. Hello.
Wow. Okay, we're going to see a very different side of Ruiz. We're loading into the Rift. Already we've seen a trade go from level 1. Both flashes have been burned by 0-2 and Ruiz. And that's a Diana top. Okay, haven't seen a whole lot of that since she was released. A little bit initially, and then not a whole lot after that. So some real upside-down lanes from what we would normally expect in this situation. I don't know that I have ever seen a Diana Garen matchup in competitive, at least from my experience. So that's a new one for me.
Wow, it's mid Olaf. I'm still not over the mid lane Olaf. They're playing mid lane Olaf. That's so interesting to see. I've never really seen it in a competitive game. As you can see, the Lee Sin is coming in, right? He's looking for those ganks. Not able to get it because 0-2 is playing it very passively, which he should against the Lee Sin. Because yeah, that's the strong early game champ.
And as a top lane matchup, I'll hold this thought because we do have Camille. As a top lane matchup, I wouldn't want to favor Olaf into Renekton early game. You don't have enough power to actually out-trade the Renekton in my mind. That's going to be an engage going into Diana, as I don't know that they can get this dive to work off quite yet, as Renekton is roaming up as well. They're going to go for it. You know it's Zefta. I think they'll get it just in time, as Diana's going to try and move back around. Nice flash to try and avoid it. Tower aggro is going down, as that is the first blood. It was almost turned back around by Fantasy Note, but first blood goes over to Gamelords.
Oh, if he was able to only waste one more second, 0-2 would have made it, and I'm pretty sure they would have turned that fight, because it was like Lee Sin got to a very low amount of HP after diving that, and 0-2 was just a tad bit too late right there, which is very unfortunate for Aphelion Esports. Yet again, Gamelord's just rotating more effectively.
Oh, nice bubble. That's just going to punish the arrogance of arrogance. Invading on bot side when you've already lost top side is the dangerous play and gets punished for it.
Yeah, arrogance just on the wrong side of the map. Lee Sin was already coming as well. You know, they were ready for it. Like, Gamelords just know their thing. And as you can see right there, you know, he tried to waste a lot of time Fantasy, you know, tried to do his best to use his barrier, use the flash, but it was just not enough. The ignite from Garen finishing him off, and of course, Lee Sin with the red buff as well, just dealing way too much damage for Fantasy Note to deal with right there.
Yeah, it's the difference between 0-2 being in range to get that second dash and like land on the Lee Sin to get the kill, and not quite being there. Really, really unfortunate for Aphelion. But again, Gamelord, we know they're going to be aggressive. Ruiz has pushed mid lane out and is going to roam as well. The lane's neutralized, but following him are Arrogance and 0-2 from that middle lane. So Ruiz may be forced to burn that Ragnarok. It won't actually break him out of the Hextech ultimatum though, so he has to just run around for a little while, tries to flash himself away from this exchange. And Ruiz nearly manages to trade one. Lonely Kid does get it though, and it buys enough time for Zefta to get up into his top lane. Kick goes back, doesn't put 0-2 under the tower. Lonely Kid is just buying time for the spin to come back up. Zefta, can he safeguard? Wait, they both dodge. They both dodge the hook shot, and Arrogance ends up in such a low position. Everybody flashing low. Gamelord are going to back away with their one kill.
No way Gamelord got away with that. No way. 0-2 dealing so much damage on the WREC and getting both of them to 1 HP, but they're just not quite able to finish them. Camille missed the hook shot, unfortunately, under the turret, leaving Lonely Kid and Zefta on 1 HP. What an unfortunate event right there for Aphelion. That was their moment, because they did out-rotate Gamelord. They did get that kill on the Garen. They did get them to a low amount of HP, but they just weren't able to finish them up, which is super unfortunate for Aphelion Esports right now.
Yeah, uncharacteristic though from Zefta being late on the recall from that exchange. He took red buff because he wants, obviously, the buff, and then now is like, okay, well, I'm not in position for neutral objectives. Aphelion don't know this though, so they can't punish. If perhaps they'd have got onto an objective immediately as they spawned, there was an opportunity to take it before the smite was available, but these are the things that so early on, you can't get the vision control to know that, and Gamelord get away with it a little bit. It's not Zefta's fault, nothing like that. It's not actually a misplay. It's just a window of opportunity that Aphelion couldn't have known they had.
Yeah, and Aphelion is like desperately trying to get something right there. And again, we see the same thing happening right now. Gamelord is like, okay, we got this dragon anyways, and we're not gonna let them do the Rift Herald. And there is gonna be a fight happening right here, Stress.
Yeah, there's 3 members of Gamelord here with the tidal wave. Nami's going to try and push them back as Lonely Kid spinning on top of the Morgana manages to get the kill down, nearly stolen away by the Corki for a second game in a row. And despite the fact that Aphelion have taken the Rift Herald, that's 3 quick kills going over to Gamelord. And again, similar situation, it nearly backfired for Aphelion.
Yeah, and this is what I mean with the Corki pick. Gamelord is right now really showing you how to play Corki, because they are utilizing that package, and they're utilizing that package to really get everything on the map, right? They were going for the dragon, they saw that Aphelion is not going for it, and we have a fight.
Yeah, Baigay's like, I'm gonna try and run away from this, but that's an Olaf. You flashed? Okay, if that connected, I think Baigay dies there, but was able to flash away from the axe and get himself safe.
Yeah, and again, as we look into the replay, we see, right, they get the dragon and they were able to back up the team. And even though they lost the Rift Herald, the Corki package just brought way too much value to this fight, allowing them to get 3 more kills as well. So instead of shaking hands, taking the dragon and just walking away, they didn't shake hands. They took the dragon, they engaged on the Rift Herald, and even though they didn't steal the Rift Herald, they were able to get 3 more kills, which gets them 5,000 gold ahead. 6 minutes into the game already. Yet again, Gamelord's just running over Aphelion Esports.
I saw that Corki missile go towards the Rift Herald, and I was like, not again. Surely not again is Corki going to steal it. This has been a really big pick for Redemption, and you're right. They're matching that 1,000 gold advantage. We didn't even see it in the bottom lane. That's a 2 versus 1 kill easily down onto Baigay. Remember, Baigay just used his flash, just used the ultimate. Kai'Sa now doesn't have mobility and seemed to have stuck around in the lane, easily picked off by Gamelords, and they might look for another dive here as Ruiz is here with Zefta. It's only Lonely Kid that is not in this exchange. It's a 4 versus 3. They'll push the tower down, and if Aphelion step anywhere close to it, they would get attacked, but Gamelord will take the objective and back away.
Yeah, Aphelion Esports is just completely being overwhelmed by Gamelords right there. You can see them just wandering around in the bot lane. They're like, okay, what do we do? Do we go? Do we not go? We can't really do anything. And that's the Gamelord effect right now. It's not only the good plays, and here we can just see them taking that free kill on the Kai'Sa right there. Kai'Sa had no ultimate, no flash. It was just a free kill on Baigay.
Oh, a tidal wave has already come out as they're trying to lock down that Camille. It's not quite enough to pick up the fight here as Redemption's going to try and get it. Captain Rain. Oh, Baigay just disintegrates. There's the bubble lands. Hester, you've banned out all of his engaged supports, and he's like, what, you didn't think Nami was an engaged support?
Yeah, wow. 8,000 gold ahead in 7 minutes, man. This is looking even worse than the first game, and it looked fine in the early game because Aphelion had that 1 good rotation, but again, unfortunately, they weren't able to get those 2 kills that were at 1 HP, and right now, Gamelord just taking turret after turret, objective after objective, just really making Aphelion play behind closed doors. They cannot do anything. They have nothing. They're just walking around desperately trying to get some farm. As you can see, they're trying to gather out some minions from the lanes. Camille's trying to get some of her jungle, but there's really nothing left for them to take in this map right now.
Yeah, and the timing is so good for Gamelord, because I was looking at neutral objectives. They weren't due up as that passage of play finished on the top tower, and I was like, okay, well, Aphelion, you just need to like not die in the next 40 seconds and just get vision control and try and set up for the next thing, because there's no towers to take. But then immediately as they start recalling, the 1 minute timer starts on the dragon, starts on the Rift Herald, and that means Gamelord are going to be in position with the package. Redemption can recall anytime that he wants and pick that up. Rift Herald used in the bottom lane. I think it was about to expire for Arrogance, so needs to just throw that down. But I mean, Ruiz doesn't care about that. Are they actually just going to sack both neutral objectives and try and take a fight? Hester might be in a little bit of trouble, will be forced to back away, but Ruiz is there too.
Yeah, and I just really love how Gamelord is just constantly playing perfectly around these objectives. Yet again, with the package, they're probably not gonna 50-50 this dragon. What they're probably gonna do is look for a fight. They're not gonna 50-50 anything, and there is a fight.
Yeah, I mean, Aphelion have just sacrificed the dragon. I mean, Garen is going to just run down 0-2 in the top lane, as Lonely Kid is going to say, no, that's my honey fruit. I'm going to take that. Dragon's gone down. Now Gamelord repositioned over to the Rift Herald, and Aphelion haven't even been able to find an advantageous fight, because on the side lane, Garen's still over half health. Here comes the package over with the tidal wave, as well as May will get taken at least into the bubble for a moment before Morgana was able to get the ult off, and Gamelord have steadied themselves. They don't have Zephyr here, so this is a 4 versus 5, and Gamelord still won enough to turn around to go and get the Rift Herald.
Yeah, it's a 4 versus 5, and Aphelion was also actually able to hit some very great abilities, right? Where Fantasy Note engaged with the beautiful Diana ultimate, but it was not enough. It's not enough. You know, when you're 8,000 gold, behind in 10 minutes into the game, you cannot very easily win fights like that, especially if there's 4 members of Gamelord right there, and Olaf is going
Ruiz
again.
is just going to run in and try and murder Baige at this. Like, the Rift Herald's gone down. Garen's going to push the bot lane. Like, Aphelion can't find any engage to even start setting themselves up. Like, they're trying. 0-2 loses half of his health and has to back away. Rift Herald thrown down in the middle lane now just to get this push going. It should break through this first tower with just a little bit more damage, and Gamelord are just taking full control of the second game in the row in exactly the same way that they did the first.
Yeah, and you can see they're already pushing the inhibitor turret 10 minutes into the game. They have no mercy. They're like, hey, we're gonna finish off this game.
You can't do this, Arrogance. Like, you cannot step up like this, even with the tower there. Ooh, Gamelord very nearly punish.
Very nearly punish. You can see this. Aphelion
Tower's
cannot do
gonna
anything.
go. Tidal wave runs through. Tower's already down. Doesn't even help Aphelion. They cannot stay alive. Diana ultimate will connect onto 4 members, but even the damage is not quite there. They get 1 kill onto Ruiz, and it's going to be for the entire game in favor of Gamelord, as they are quite low health. They can't get the inhibitor, but in goes Zephyr, this Lee Sin we've talked about, as Lonely Kid is not lonely anymore. He's found himself a friend, but it's under the tower, and down he drops. Overextension from Lonely Kid. Gamelord do still have to be careful.
Yeah, and Heste is in a very bad position right there. You know, he cannot escape. Unfortunately, that's going to be his death. It is not, though. Oh, no way.
He even flashes past Arrogance. Like, Arrogance doesn't have the ultimate, so they can't keep chasing. This might be a little bit of an overstay by Gamelord. Group acrobatics with 3 people going over the wall off the blast cone, and they're getting chased down, but I think Gamelord can reset here.
There's no way Gamelord just got out of that position without a single death. Nami was caught in the Nexus, but they were able to just escape very easily. And if we look at this replay, it's not Aphelion that's engaging, it's Gamelord that's engaging. They use the Nami ultimate, and they just go. They go super deep, as you can see. Olaf even sacrificing himself to get that kill, and then Garen is like, yeah, sure. You know, I'm Lonely Kid. I don't want to be as lonely. I'm gonna be hugging the Kai'Sa right there, even though it costs my life. I'm still gonna go for it. And I just love this aggression, even though it didn't work, because they didn't quite calculate the fact that Kai'Sa still had her ultimate. Very well played by Baige, by the way. Yeah, they still went for it.
Yeah, they did. Baron due up in just over 40 seconds. The package is up, but Gamelord are going to take the fight without it. Lonely Kid moves his way back into the parallel. The Hextech ultimatum, I should say. It doesn't even matter that he gets locked out for a moment, as Gamelord are just going to run rampant through this one, trying to find another kill, as Lonely Kid once again can't quite connect with Baige for the conversion on that takedown, and Gamelord haven't been able to finish it. Zefta's going to go in. He's like, I'll just take this into my own hands as Redemption picks up another one. Zefta did fall, so that makes the neutral objectives a little bit trickier as Redemption forces stasis. The rest of his team is locked away. Valkyrie tries to get him out to safety, but it's not quite enough as Ruiz is just randomly taking an inhibitor in the middle lane, and it's got scrappy from Gamelord, but they're still crushing these objectives despite the fact that they're losing a few members.
Yeah, definitely. And you know what the funny thing is? Gamelord is not even playing these fights very well. As we said, they didn't even take the package. They're diving way too deep. They're just kind of playing around in this game, right? And that might be a scary thing to do, because like as you can see right here, they didn't play the team fight as well as they should have. The Garen was diving way too deep with no real backup, as you can see right here. And yeah, sure, they still win the fight, but yeah, here you can see Garen being way too overextended. But again, Aphelion was still unable to win this fight, and Diana engaging with a beautiful ultimate, but yet again, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It's just Gamelord is so far ahead that they just don't really... There's no way for them to lose this team fight in this current situation right now.
Yeah, that choke, any choke like that is where Diana wants to fight you. And I mean, Ruiz took the inhibitor at the same time. Like, that tells you how split focus they were. They were still able to come out even on kills and yet take 2 towers, one of them being an inhibitor. Now Arrogance is going to get caught by Zefta with the Sonic Wave. Should just be an easy tidal wave for Lonely Kid to come in through the backside. Damn. This one was clean. That's what Gamelord needed to do. They already have super minions in the middle lane, and that's the game.
Yeah, that one was clean. We saw a 4-man ultimate coming through from Heste. And Heste is like, you can ban 5 champions from me, but I'm still gonna destroy you. He just picks the Nami, and oh, sorry, that's my doorbell. It's very loud.
That's Gamelord. They actually have had enough time to get out of the game and deliver a 2-0 victory over Aphelion. Gamelord looking very, very strong. We did expect it. I think that might even have been a little bit quicker than I was expecting on the game. Very scrappy in the end of the second game. I feel like Gamelord was just like, well, we've won whatever we do, and just closed it out.
Yeah, Gamelord was it seemed like Gamelord was kind of trolling around at the end of the game, because as we said, that was not the normal way of them doing things. They were just kind of diving super deep, trying to make those fun plays, and they were really not afraid to lose that game right there. And I just really want to put the highlight on Heste, because it's so funny that they banned away 5 champions against him, but he was just providing so much value on that Nami last game.
And I feel like his playstyle, even on Nami, you expect Nami to be like this kind of defensive. Okay, if you engage into me, then I can bubble and tidal wave. But Heste's like, no, Nami's an engaged support. I'm going to run up. I'm going to bubble actively. I'm going to tidal wave actively and start these fights with these objectives. I don't care about disengage. I'm just going to engage. Nami, totally worthwhile as an engaged champion. So, yeah, I mean, Heste's one of the players I think that we're going to start talking a lot more about. Same with Ryu from yesterday's series, where I feel like there's a big disparity in supports and playstyle. Is like the roaming active supports set their team up so effectively. And I think Hester is one of the best that I've seen so far in Europe.
Yeah, and we saw Ryu do it as well yesterday, and proved incredibly worthy because he was able to provide so much value for his team. Heste as well, they're just so afraid of his roaming support that they're just banning out all of them that are really good at doing it. And this play right here that we're seeing, this is the disastrous play. Arrogance wasn't quite able to pick up a kill right there. And if he was able to pick up that kill, maybe that would have been enough way for them to get into this game, but I really don't think they would have, because all the plays that we're seeing is just a Gamelord stomp fight.
Yeah, I was having deja vu on this fight where the Corki nearly stole the Rift Herald again. I mean, Arrogance looked Arrogance and Aphelion looked better in this game. I certainly wouldn't write them off yet, but like, they're going up against one of the toughest teams, in my opinion, in the bracket. So I think when Aphelion now go down to the lower bracket, we're going to see, I think they'll be playing the loser of Queso and Team Supremacy. So like, if they end up against Queso, you just drew the 2 toughest teams in this top side. If you end up against Supremacy, then we're going to have to kind of track how that plays against each other. But I mean, Gamelord, the aggressive playstyle is so fun to watch. I really, really enjoy watching Gamelord play Wild Rift. They make it so quick to close out games.
Yeah, but again, I don't want to disappoint you too much, but this didn't feel like the real Gamelord. This felt more like, we're just gonna get through this series and we'll show you Gamelord later on. Because they were, they were kind of trolling in this game at the end. Not trolling, but as in not playing efficiently as they can. Because in the first game, they were playing a bit better than the second game. But in the second game, they were just rolling around on the map all the time.
Yeah, I think that we historically have seen that when teams end up against competition that you know that they already feel like they've won the series before you even load into the Rift. And some people will find that like egotistical or arrogant in a way, but it's kind of just the way the competition is. Like, it's so high pressure when you are playing against the best teams that sometimes when you have these games where you're like, well, we won game 1 in 15 minutes and we're 8 minutes in with basically like an astronomical lead. Let's just do a limit test for a while, see how good this Garen is and try and get it. But then you saw them rein it in with that last play of just kind of crush the last team fight and go, okay, well, we're just going to win now. The gold graphs, everything kind of tells the same story, that not really any way of Aphelion actually bouncing back into this late game carry where they played Bane in game 1 and by playing Kai'Sa in game 2. I just don't think that helped in the draft by doing that against such a strong early game team.
And I love how Heste nearly did the same damage as Lee Sin. And here, yet again, like you see, this graph is deja vu from last game. It looks exactly the same as last game. Just a steady lead, getting to the late game, and easy win. It's really nothing special right there. Gamelord just dominating the game, and not too much to talk about, to be honest.
Yeah, I feel like game 1 was a good look at the macro play from Gamelord. I feel like they're the cleanest team that we've seen. And this was the same in the Purge tournament that Stuart and I casted in January. Is I came out of the games feeling like, okay, they understand the current meta and the way to play with it the best out of the teams we've seen. And up until this point, I would agree on the weekend as well. Viv looked really good and Zero Zone looked really good, but I think there's just like this one extra bit of cleanliness from Gamelord, other than the second game, like second half, where they got a little rough around the edges. I think they have a really good understanding of the macro and the meta right now. I want to hear a little bit from Gamelord. That's what I want to do. So we're going to head over to an interview with Stuart, one of the Gamelord players.
Thank you very much, Stress. I'm indeed joined by Ruiz, who is the mid laner of Gamelord. Ruiz, how are you feeling? How's the team feeling after that victory?
Hi, first of all, thank you for inviting me in the interview, and that feels good. Like, win always feel good.
Awesome stuff. And for yourself as well, obviously before you was on Team Queso and you got to go to the Horizon Cup, which for you was probably a great experience. But now on Gamelord, how are you feeling with the team now? How has the transition been from Team Queso over to Gamelord?
If I'm honest, like, first of all, like, talk about like chain from TQ to Gamelord will be hard for me because I didn't know about like their play style, about if they will understand how I play, how they play. But actually, I don't know, like, it was too easy to adapt to them because they are very good players. They have very good understanding in the game, and they are just like helping me a lot to play a mid lane. And yeah, it was like very easier because they are very good players in overall.
Awesome stuff. And the next series as well, you could be facing your old team, Team Queso, as well in the next round of the tournament. They'll be playing against Supremacy. What's your thoughts going into that series? Do you have any predictions going into that one?
I love them so much, okay, because they are my old team and we won the last Origin series, but I think we will beat them 2-0 because I think we play better as a team and as a family than them. So we will beat them for sure.
Awesome stuff. Ruiz, thank you very much for the interview. Good luck for the rest of the tournament. Back to Stress and Cast to wrap up the first series of the day.
Okay, thank you. And thank you everyone for supporting us. Bye-bye. See you.
Great to hear from Ruiz. I love that, like the transition from Queso to Gamelord as well. I haven't really had to think about it too much because it's been so easy. I mean, yeah, when you've got a jungler like Zephyr and the top laner, like, honestly, the whole lineup is great. But like Ruiz just gets to do his own thing. He's like, just pick me whatever I want, like whether it's Zed or whether it's an Olaf. Just give me the room to play and I'll do everything that you need me to. So no surprise from Ruiz. We're going to take another quick look at that second game. A little bit rough around the edges, but I think there were some really key moments and the play of the game for this series. Walk us through, Hells. I'm gonna guess it's that Rift Herald play, just like it was in the first game. Oh, it's the bot lane fight. Okay, cool.
Yeah, we can actually see the bot lane play where Heste had a beautiful ultimate with the Nami and they just diving super deep, getting all the kills. And here it was already enough. And although they were kinda hinting by diving a little too deep, giving away 2 free kills to Aphelion Esports, but yet again, they're just really showing their dominance. They're asserting the dominance right there. But I really hope they keep this clip rolling because the real play of the game, in my opinion, opinion, was when the Nami was able to escape from this moment right here. And unfortunately they don't, but that whole play was perfect after those two misplays, right? Diving a little too deep. They were able to escape with all three allies alive with less than 10% HP, which was just so funny to see from Gamelord that they're even able to do something like that.
Yeah, we were. That was certainly at the point where Gamelords were like, "Okay, we've already won. Let's just run behind the mid lane inhibitor with Garen, and it's all good." I mean, there are so many players that performed in this series. I think there's arguments you could make for all of the Gamelord roster. I mean, Redemption had really good damage output in general. Hester, I think when you look across two games, like how many bans he drew and still having that performance. Let's check out who got our MVP of the series. Yeah, I really don't know who this is going to be. This is for the first time so far. All 5 players, I think, could get this. It is going to be Hester. Support's getting the MVP. Oh, put the respect on Hester.
Yeah, this is where you support mains out there. We saw the respect bans against Hester. I think 80% of the bans were all aimed towards Hester, which is incredible to see because like they're all scary, but yet Aphelion thought that Hester was the biggest threat by banning out all of the support picks, but still, he picked the Nami, he picked the supports that are left and is dominating the game regardless.
I'm so happy. We got a support MVP and it's totally deserved. It's so deserved in that performance. Hester bring a ton of bans in this series and still making Nami look engage worthy. So Gamelord closed that series 2-0 over Aphelion. Our next series is another banger. It's Team Queso versus Supremacy. We will be back in a couple of minutes to get that series underway.
Is
pizza.
Pizza.
My favorite food is actually chicken breast and potatoes. I'm a big guy, but that's because I eat a lot of potatoes.
My favorite is hot pot.
I maybe don't have the name in English.
Fast food. It's a Chinese food.
Have to go with chicken wings.
Maybe gaufre ou crêpe. Maybe wait, I can find the traduction.
Lasagna.
Grilled chicken.
Probably some sort of Italian food. Big fan of pizza and pasta.
Okay, it's like waffle.
Oh God.
Waffle are pretty good.
Always one of my mom's dishes that she cooks. I think right now, because it's one of the only foods I can actually make by myself, it's tortillas.
Okay, you know what is waffle?
The experience at the Open Qualifier was...
Well, I think it was very interesting.
It was really intense. At first, we got some weaker teams, but that's fine. We love that everyone can compete.
It was not bad. We just go from the start to the playoffs.
At first, I didn't really expect us to even qualify for playoffs, and in the end, it turned out that we actually managed to qualify, which I'm really happy about.
The Open Qualifier was actually pretty easy. Now it's gonna be a hard time, but we are aiming for the first place and get the winner chicken dinner.
We know that we're gonna face really strong teams. No matter if it's upper or lower bracket, all the teams are really good, so we're prepared.
Not gonna lie, we are heading like a minimum to top 5. We will try our best.
We just want to give our best. If we want, it's good. If we lose, it's fine. We will take everything we can. That's all.
We are actually super excited that our games will be streamed.
I've never actually won an official Riot tournament, so it will be very, very cool for me to do that for the first time. And of course, I really want to go to the LAN event.
I think we're just, we're friendly and kind of have a rivalry with all these kind of top teams. I think we 100% believe we can make it to Barcelona. A big shout out to all of our fans. Come make sure to check us out in the playoffs.
Всем знакомым привет. Следите за турниром.
Vamos a estar bastantes equipos españoles y espero que apoyéis a todos.
Bizi ve takımımızı izlemek için EMA'ya sizi davet ediyorum. Size eminim güzel şeyler göstereceğiz.
See you on the matches.
My most hated champ, it's at the moment...
Emo. Every day of the week, Emo.
I would say Vayne, because it's not fair what the champ does.
Honestly, Jarvan, he just auto-aims everything, and he's so tanky, and he does so much damage for no reason. It's super annoying.
Seth, probably, since it's just so annoying playing against Seth because he is so fast.
Definitely Yasuo, because I can't play the champion well, and it's really disgusting.
In scrims at least, I mean, it has to be Garen. The champ never dies, impossible to die, one-shots you this whole time. Yeah, it's...
My most hated champion is actually not released yet. It's Yumi that will be released in Wild Rift. I used to play League of Legends. This is the most disgusting champion that have ever been released.
Nah, it's him. It's Garen.
Timo.
Captain Timo on duty.
Welcome back to day 2 of the Wild Rift EMEA Championship. We are in the open bracket top 16, round of 16. There's a lot of top teams in here, and I'm Stress, joined by Stuart for what is hopefully going to be a more contested series, but I think it's going to be as exciting as Team Queso are about to go up against Supremacy. Stuart, we had a very one-sided series to start the day. Any thoughts on whether this next one's going to go any differently?
I mean, we've seen one Titan already. We're going to have to see if the other Titan will follow in the footsteps of Gamelord. But yeah, Gamelord, very, very convincing in the first game. And you can see why they're just a step above the rest. But Team Queso now, they also have some changes in the roster as well. And Supremacy is not a team that, people shouldn't really, go low about, because they've got some players in this roster that are really, really strong and really, really high on the elo ladders in ranked games.
Yeah, you'll have to walk us through some of them as we go through the rest of the series. I know Hells is keeping his eye on a few things heading into this game. I wonder whether he's going to talk about Joey. Hells, what have you got for us?
Yeah, so as we're heading into this game, we've got some key points, and Team Queso, obviously the Origin Series winners, right? They come into this match as being the best team before this tournament, but it's not the old Queso, it's a new Queso. They have a whole new roster, it's a new Queso roster, and when we talk about the new roster, we're especially talking about their bot lane, right? They got Methanot and Joey Skaggs, and my eyes are on them. My eyes are definitely on them, because this is the whole new bot lane that we've never seen before in any other team, in any other competition really, and they immediately go on such a big team like Team Queso, so they must have something to surprise us, right? So that is it for the key points for this game. Back to Stuart and Stress to cast the game.
Thanks, Hells. Bit of a spoiler. I've been listening to Hells talk about how good Joey is for like the last 2 weeks, so whenever we've been talking about Queso. So, spoiler, we knew what was coming on that side of things. But, okay, we've heard about a couple of the players on the rosters. Let's take a look at the full lineups for Team Queso and Supremacy. As you said, there are names on both sides of the rift. We put a lot of respect onto Team Queso as being the defending European champions in the sense of winning Origin Series last year. But the lineups for this series, starting on the blue side, are are going to be Team Queso. We've heard a little bit about Joey Skaggs in that bottom lane, but Stuart, who else from the Queso lineup do you have your eyes on? I'll read the full ones out before we get there. It is going to be blue side. In the top lane, it's Acolyte, Andreas, Veos, Joey Skaggs, and Methanol for Team Queso. On the other side, the Supremacy is Sanjarin, Miracle, Senshio, Carrot Cop, and my reading comprehension skills are not good enough for the AD carry. So I'm just going to ask you. I'm going to ask you, Stu, what are your thoughts?
Yeah. I mean, coming into this, obviously, Team Queso, as you said already, you know, one of the best teams. We're looking at the jungler again, Andreas as well. Very, very similar to Zefta in the previous game as well. One of the best junglers in the entire game right now in Europe. And then you have a few changes. We spoke, Hell spoke already about the bot lane for Team Queso with Joey Skaggs and Methanol, and also Veos as well, as he releases, you know, with the interview before, we know that he has moved over now to Gamelord. That means that Team Queso had to find a new mid laner. They got Veos as well, who actually, funny enough, used to play for Gamelord. So it's kind of a switch around there. So it's going to be interesting how Team Queso adapt with this new roster, but we haven't seen this new roster yet. When they played before in the Spanish tournament, I believe it was in December, they were still with their old roster. So now coming into this, we have high expectations for Team Queso, but we don't really know what to expect because we haven't seen this team play together before.
Yeah, that's very fair. I think this is one of these times where every so often you get such big lineup changes in esports, but you're like, well, the organization like denotes respect. Like you know you have to respect them because of the way that they performed in the past. And Queso is not just a Wild Rift thing. Like Queso have been around in mobile esports for quite some time now, one of the most respected organizations. So when they put a lineup together, you immediately have to think, okay, these guys are going to be good. So as we head towards our first picks and bans of the day, Stuart, my view on picks and bans has now changed from day one. I think Garen is now a red side ban because it's going to be first picked on blue side. We've seen it too many times do too well for it to be left through. Anything else you think has changed in the draft this time around?
I think one pick that we probably have to talk about is Corki. You know, Corki has risen up a lot in priority. I mean, obviously we've mentioned before that we've casted, you know, Purge Tournament and everything before. We knew that Redemption was really, really strong on Corki, but there was other champions, other players as well that have been picking up Corki, and he's definitely been rising up as that kind of AP mage AD carry in a way down in the duo lane as well. Obviously we got the standard stuff, we got the Set, we got the Jace, we got other champions as well. Andreas loves the Lee Sin as well, as Zefta does as well. Acolyte as well in the top lane. We haven't really spoken too much about him, but here's Darius. We saw in the Horizon Cup how strong he can be on this Darius. So it's going to be interesting to see what Supremacy will ban away for the first game of the series.
You raise a very good point, because we heard in, I think it was your interview with Patterson, that Darius is a good matchup into Garen. If I was remembering correctly his answer on that question. So Acolyte is a Darius player. Let's take a look a little bit at our standings for the bracket right now. As you can see, Gamelord will be the team that just advanced into that second round, going up against the Supremacy or Team Queso, the winner of the series that we are in right now. Lower bracket means that Aphelion Esports have dropped down and will face the loser of this series, which if Aphelion end up having to go against Queso if there's an upset, that is like the unluckiest bracket draw you could possibly have, with like Gamelord in the upper bracket, Queso in the lower bracket. So Aphelion are probably like fingers crossed that Queso win this series and they have an opportunity to play again.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we look at our predictions and everything as well, you know, with all of us predicting Team Queso as well. We expect Team Queso to win this. So, you know, we might have that kind of rematch and a kind of a little bit of a battle, a little bit of rivalry really with Gamelord and Team Queso with roster changes and how many times these two teams have faced off against each other. Like you said, in a lower bracket, if Supremacy do lose this game, they have to play off against Aphelion as well. And in that lower bracket, it's really interesting because we've got Weigers down there already. We've got Aphelion down there as well. We're going to have a really close matchups in that lower side of the bracket. And, you know, if they do lose, then they're out of the tournament and they have to try and go through the last chance qualifier.
I feel like the first half of this bracket has been so stacked. Like in this top side, we've got Viv. We obviously have Zero Zone as well, like very strong. Gamelord, Queso. We've still got Supremacy up here as well. This first half is great. We haven't even seen like WREC. There's like Formulation, who they performed really well in the Purge tournament. Like surprisingly so. The finals was Gamelord against Formulation, and we were like, Formulation, not expecting too much from them. Down the bottom side, we've got Control as well. A few other teams that we're expecting a lot from. So, you know, when we say 16 teams, there are actually quite a few strong teams to go up against each other. Hopefully, we're just a couple of moments away from picks and bans between Team Queso and the Supremacy. Supremacy, but we've talked a little bit about the draft. We've talked a little bit about the teams actually coming into this. I want to talk about playstyle, because our last series, we saw when Gamelord are playing aggressively how smothering you can be in Wild Rift. And I think it's going to take a lot for that playstyle to actually change. These active teams, especially with active supports, seem to have the real edge over their opponents.
Yeah, I think that's when like the likes of Methanout will come in as well. Obviously, we haven't really seen too much of him, but as a support, you have to be, like you said, proactive. You have to be the one roaming around, and sometimes you do have to leave kind of your dual lane partner down in a dual lane by themselves because of these big objectives, like the Rift Towers you have to roam for, the Dragons as well. You have to set up vision for your team as well, and it feels like in this, in this whole tournament at the moment, supports are the ones that are kind of the rock of the entire team. As long as your support can roam around, if they can make these picks and make these engages, then they could really be the ones that make the difference and allow your team to follow up and hopefully win the series.
I think that may even tie into the Corki point that we were talking about, like Corki being a very strong bot laner. He's one of the few champions in the current meta that has mobility and can play that mage style. Like when you look at, even a Varus doesn't have mobility if you're playing AD, but then like Orianna, Ziggs, not particularly mobile champions, whereas like Corki's like, okay, normally I have the Valkyrie, and then I have the package Valkyrie when I can pick that up. So I wonder whether that plays into it as well. The ability to just kind of be solo, have wave clear, have damage, have magic damage come from it. I wonder whether that's influencing the ability for supports to actually get out and roam around. They don't have to babysit so much.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you talk about the previous series quickly as well. We didn't really see any like majors at all, but enough for the previous series. We're going to get into picks and bans finally for game number 1.
We absolutely are. I think Garen, of course, has to be one of the picks that you take away here. We're expecting Queso to come out of the gates with quite a fast play style and look quite aggressive. So I do expect Supremacy to go with the normal Jace ban, Set ban, maybe even the Garen ban for themselves. It gives Queso some room to decide what they want to pick out. And I like blue side Lee Sin ban because I think it's not often you're going to pick Lee Sin as first pick on blue side, but red side almost always will have it as a really valid option in their first rotation.
I think that's a great thing about blue side sometimes is that the red side are just going to be your standard bans. It's going to be the Jace, it's going to be the Set, it's going to be the likes of Camille as well. And on the blue side, you can kind of flex around these bans. You see the Z ban now as well. So a lot of AD champions that are being banned, the AD bruisers and the assassins that we talk about so much in the top side of the map at the moment, which is why we see so many dual lane players playing the likes of, the Morgana, the Orianna and things like that as well. And going into these next bans as well, we're going to see what the other ban is. It's going to be Rakan as well. So again, another engaged support like we saw in the last series as well. Not quite like, Heste with the 5 support bans, but Rakan is just a pick in general that could just go in and just be a great engaged force for your team.
Definitely. I mean, there's a Garen ban, so that still leaves the Darius open if Acolyte wants it, but Camille, Galio, Varus, which hasn't seen the presence, Corki is up. Does that go to a first pick level of play? Fiora as well, a pick that has been banned in a lot of games, is available. This one can flex between that Baron lane and the jungle.
Yeah, we've seen a little bit of a Fiora in the jungle. I think Andreas has played it as well, a little bit in the jungle, but Acolyte on the Fiora as well. We've seen it a few times, but obviously we know him as the Darius, so maybe they can flex this around and maybe that Fiora can go into the jungle. Maybe we might see the Darius as well. Coming into this, obviously, I've said a little bit about, the members on the side of Supremacy. You got players like Sanji, you got Just Fake as well, which if you can't read the duo lane's name, his name is Just Fake. So we'll know him as Just Fake going through the rest of this tournament. And Carrot Cop as well. And you see at the moment, I believe it's Just Fake actually playing support and Carrot Cop playing AD. But we talk about the Varus, and I think this is actually the first game we've finally seen Varus.
It is, and there's the mobility coming from the support as well. Thresh is one of these champions that unlocks extra mobility with the Lantern. So Varus picked up allows you to have that very early game presence in the bottom lane. This is a slightly older school mentality on the draft that we've been seeing the last couple of days. Morgana's taken similar principle on the wave clear. Wouldn't be too surprised now to see either jungle or support picked up by Team K. So they of course can flex that Camille had the Fiora, but flexing doesn't work so well on blue side because you always will be giving last pick over to red side.
Yeah, exactly. That's a great part about red side. But obviously this Morgana as well. I mean, like we mentioned, we haven't really seen too much of Joey and Methanout, and they just say, straight away, give me the Morgana, give me the Brom as well, which is not really, I would say, the best pairing in the bot lane. Normally with a Braum, you like to go for like them AD sort of champions, like maybe a Lucian, like maybe a Vayne or anyone like that as well. So pairing it with a Morgana is interesting. But yeah, you said, well, that's a Riven, another champion that could be flexed to many different lanes, even the mid lane as well.
Okay, here's my thoughts. When I see Morgana, Braum, and a Fiora, I'm already looking at 1-3-1. Like, Braum disengages, Morgana disengages, holds the mid lane. Hard to take out a Fiora, but how, like, I have to kind of extrapolate and think, okay, Riven, early game on a side lane does quite well on her, and at least from PC, I'm kind of like trying to think of how the matchup translates. Renekton banned away, Camille banned away, all of these side lane picks getting banned away so that they can't have strength in the side lane on that third lane. I wonder whether Fizz rises in priority then. It's one of the last remaining picks like that and Jax. But hard to make work for Queso.
Yeah, it seems like Supremacy kind of think that this Fiora is forcing this Fiora, you know, to kind of go into top lane. Maybe they, or Baron lane, sorry. They think that maybe the Fiora is already going to be in the jungle, so they're banning out these Baron lane champions. Interesting enough, we didn't actually see Camille at all in the first rotation, and Supremacy is like, you know what, just get rid of it. We don't want to deal with it at all. Diana being banned away as well. Olaf being banned away as well. Obviously, there's quite a lot of crowd control on the side of Team Queso, and Olaf would have been a great jungle pick on the side of Supremacy. But now Supremacy are able to get this next pick. We're going to see what is Xin Zhao, which is very, very interesting. A lot of engagement, obviously can disengage as well and try and knock away people with the ultimate, but I'm not really too sure how Xin Zhao really engages when you've got the likes of a Braum and even like a Black Shield as well. It might be quite hard.
Yeah, that's a fair point. I am seeing a lot of early game coming out of Supremacy, though. Xin Zhao historically has been quite a good early game jungler and falls off quite hard. At least, you know, his ability to impact the game starts running low. As you said, especially in team fights when you have a Braum, when you have a Morgana. There is Acolyte's Darius, so still that Fiora can go over to the jungle. We'll expect to see something in the middle lane. Normally, I'd be like, oh, Darius is a team fighter as opposed to like a side laner on his own, but we've seen Acolyte pick Darius so many times, so I'm not worried on what Acolyte's going to bring to the table with that.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Stress. I know what you're going to say. My point of Akali, it has not been happened. You know, for those who don't know, I did say before this, I was doing like this whole like play every single champion sort of thing. I played Akali. I thought she was really weak, and I said to Stress, I was like, okay, we're not going to see Akali in this entire tournament. But Veos is like, okay, you know what, Stuart? I'm going to show you how to play Akali, and obviously these players are a lot better than me. So hopefully Veos has a few interesting plays. But Akali's quite interesting. Obviously, they have like this double AP damage now. They don't really have any sort of AD damage in the mid lane anymore. They do have this Akali and Orianna now going over to the side, which it looks like it's going to be mid lane Orianna. We normally see Orianna down in the Druid lane, but I think it's the first time we've seen like an AP versus AP matchup in the mid lane for quite a long time, really.
Yeah, it does feel like it's been quite a while. I feel like, you know, you're giving that ball delivery system with Xin Zhao gives you an option, but we've already kind of said that Team Queso, they don't have the best team fighting comp. They kind of look like they want to avoid team fights other than the Darius. Like, the way that I'm envisioning this game for Queso is like you're getting 2v1 kills on the side lane as much as possible. This is one of the first games where we don't have a lot of globals, so that's one area where for Supremacy I'm a little bit scared of, because there's no Galio to join, there's no Pantheon, there's nothing like this to actually assist on the side lane. So like Fiora, Akali, Darius, if they find one person on their own, immediately you kill them, the rest of the team backs away.
Yeah, you talk about the 1-3-1 composition for Team Queso. They can put Fiora in one lane, and they can even decide to put Acolyte on the Darius or Veos on the Akali in the other side lane as well. And then you have that Morgana in the mid lane. You have that, you know, as we mentioned before, you know, that mid lane priority, the mid lane pressure for the Morgana with the wave clear. But on the other side as well, you still have Varus. So Varus is still not too bad with the wave clear as well. So it's not like it's a Vayne or it's someone that doesn't really have a lot of wave clears. But it's going to be really interesting to see how these two teams line up as I hope we get into game number one very, very shortly. Obviously, the first time we've seen Team Queso as well. First time we've seen this bot lane, and Joey Skaggs bringing out the AP mage in the bot lane for game number one.
Yeah, I think it's a strong pick in the sense that we've seen the Morgana a lot. Varus, I think we still have to give the respect over, right, for Supremacy. Is like if they get ahead with Riven, Xin Zhao, Varus, like those are some really high damage champions when it comes to early game skirmishes. And we're on to the Rift for game number one between Team Queso and Supremacy. So we have the more standard mid lane than we've seen the last couple of days, and the Varus in the bottom lane, which is the first pick. We get to see a little bit of that early game presence down there from Carrot Cop.
Yep, as mentioned, yeah, Karakop's on the AD, and Just Fake is the other name who is on the support role. And like I said before the game, you know, these players on the side of Supremacy, they haven't really been, you know, around like the top team, but they're still really, really good players. You know, I don't think they've played together for too long, but they're all very, very talented players. You know, micro-wise, they know how to play the game. They know what it's like. It's just how they're going to work as a team. And it's kind of the same with Team Queso as well. We know that all these players are so good. You know, talk about Joey and Methanol in the bot lane. We know how good Veos is. But it's how they work as a team. Because both these teams are fairly brand new. And it's going to be interesting. But look at the top lane already. Miracle already looking like he's going to be going for another gang. But yeah, as you mentioned already, you know, that the early game of Supremacy is so strong with the Xinjiang, with the Riven as well for this early game damage. And they might leave the mid lane in kind of a bit of an island because Oriana kind of wants to scale up.
Well, you can also see Queso knowing the early game presence, as they've brought Methanol up towards the middle lane to kind of block the Xin Zhao, and Acolyte had already warded out topside in that brush to make sure that he didn't get early ganked from the Xin Zhao. Now the contest over the second crab means that they can kind of put the pressure on around blue buff, but look, the crowd control doesn't connect. They don't really want to go any further. I would be surprised to see Andres go any further in here. A little bit tricky when the rest of the team kind of not quite there, but will actually contest the blue buff. Dark finally does land under the tower, so they know Varus isn't there. I don't know so much about this. I don't know whether you can continue to contest this. They are going to go for that first kill onto Just Fake, but there's the flash out and the command protect, but it's the Fiora picking up the first kill. I was wrong on this one. His first blood has gone over to Team Queso. Methanol will be able to flash out, but ends up falling. It's a triple kill already over to the Fiora, and this has gone monstrously wrong as 3 kills go over to Team Queso.
Yeah, Team Queso, they're being the ones that wanted to play aggressive. The reason why they played aggressive is because of the Brom passive. If you can get the stacks with Fiora, you can get the stacks so quickly. And as long as Brom auto attacks as well, you see here, Just Fake is completely caught with the Brom passive, as you can see, the follow-up as well, the jump from the Methanol, and also Andreas as well. And then the rotations as well. Karakop came a little bit too late because we talk about the, you know, the priority in the lanes. Morgana is able to push with the pull that she has, so that means Karakop is just underneath the tower, and most of the time you're just going to lose minions on the tower if you rotate. And as you can see, in that situation, the Brom passive came up clutch, and Team Queso get a nice early gold lead.
Yeah, and the difference between 1 kill for Supremacy and not getting a kill at all was basically the burn from Xin Zhao. Like, Methanol was nearly out of there with his life to basically take a clean fight for Queso. Apprehend from Darius is just going to keep Riven busy as Team Queso are assuming complete control of the top side, looking to just invade against this Xin Zhao. And I mean, if Xin Zhao never gets into this game, it's so hard to play a jungler like him. He has one function and can only really do that. He's going to try and survive as a grand challenge. He's going to lock down. Braum is the one that picks up the kill, but look, we're 20 seconds away from objectives spawning, and Miracle is still dead for 10 of them. It's going to be Queso focusing down this first objective of the game.
The parry there by Andreas on the Fiora. He actually parried the ultimate of Xin Zhao. And if you don't know, with Fiora, if you do parry, and if you parry any sort of crowd control or any sort of knockback or anything like that, you can actually stun the member. And he was able to, you know, root and stun the Xin Zhao into place, and that's what allowed them to get the kill. But as you said, full control at the moment for Team Queso in this early game. You can see Fiora is now starting the dragon, but lined up to go for a fight. Really well played by Andreas to help Methanol out there to be able to jump over the wall. But yeah, as mentioned already, you know, complete control already. About 2,000 gold lead on the side of Team Queso. We talk about the mid lane priority, the mid lane pressure, but it's all about the top lane at the moment.
Apprehend and nearly manages to catch another as the burn is going to go through off the bleed. Acolyte manages to stay alive. It's going to be another kill going over to Andres. I thought perhaps with Veos in the bottom lane, it might have been a bad fight for Queso to actually take, but look, they're able to kind of get their flash into the play. It is going to be a kill going over to Carrot.
He cancelled it.
And that's going to be cancelled for Andres. That's a big point here as he was trying to absorb a potential Chains of Corruption with another parry, but it's another kill going over to this Varus.
Yeah, a little bit of an overextension there by Team Queso. Really well played by the bot lane of Supremacy. Karakop and Just Fake there. Karakop just using Varus's third ability to just cancel the back. But as you can see, Supremacy got the Rift Herald as well, and Dragon Team Queso weren't able to do because they tried to tower dive bot lane instead. And they might even try and take this top lane tower as well. Not just yet.
Yeah, I think the difference in this game between Queso and what we've seen from particularly Viv Esports and Gamelord in our previous series is like Team Queso split their focus. They did get the first tower in the bottom lane for Veos, so I can't read too much negative into it. But they were split focus. One in the bottom lane and Rift Herald went down.
Yeah, so they did take the first tower. They did get a kill over in the top lane, but Rift Herald did go over as well. They do get a dragon as well. So overall, not a bad trade for Team Queso, but it's definitely not clean, I would say. You know, the tower dive was definitely a little bit shaky, especially with objectives spawning. Now, most of the time in a situation, you'll see loads of teams just sit around the objectives and try and get control over there. But instead, Team Queso is the ones that want to try and play aggressive. And Andreas at the moment on this Fiora is so far ahead right now. Already has a 24 completed like we saw. And if you can get a Fiora ahead, we talk about the 1-3-1 composition. I don't really think there's anyone on the side of Supremacy that can really deal with Fiora in the late game.
No, not at all. I was about to say that. Like, Fiora in this game is the late game monster. That's a very scary monster to have 3 kills already, being basically the most fed person in the game. Only Varus can contest on the amount of gold, and you expect Varus to be ahead at this point. Bot lane, we're going to go over for another exchange as Fiora Andres is going to try and stay alive. Does manage to get it as Grand Challenge, does complete for that healing pad, and now may very well look to dive over as Joey is here as well on this Morgana. The binding doesn't connect, but all it does is forces Varus to run closer to Fiora for another kill.
Great rotations there by Joey. You know, most of the time, you see them AP mages in the mid lane, and sometimes they just sit there and do absolutely nothing. They just clear the ways, but Joey's like, nope, I want to roam. I want to make these proactive plays. He's one that rotates down to the Jura lane, and another 2 kills over to Team Queso. And yeah, it looks like Team Queso at the moment, they're kind of running away with this game. It's going to be really hard for Supremacy to come back, or we might get something very, very similar to our first series. Veos as well. Little bit of trouble, but he should be able to escape really easily.
I want to watch how Queso bounce between their side lanes. Like, you see Veos now go to the top side to try and absorb the next push from Supremacy, so it allows Andres to come up. They just got a 2 versus 1 kill on the bottom side even before Joey came down. Now look, they're going to group top side. Watch the minimap coming up the river. Yes, the action is going on, but Akali's bought time in the Shroud, and here comes the rest of Queso. It's bought enough time because Grand Challenge is going to at least force back the Riven as they pick up the kill onto Miracle, and it just seems all too easy right now for Team Queso, as long as they don't overextend.
I'm really enjoying watching Team Queso right now. The rotations that they're doing, they've done it in the Jura lane, and they've now done it in the Baron lane as well. They're just rotating as a team, and at the moment, Supremacy don't really know how to deal with it. They feel like they have an advantage, and they felt like they did in the top side there with Sanji and with Miracle, but unfortunately, they didn't realize that the whole of Team Queso were there at the same time. And like you said, it's really interesting to watch where the priority of Team Queso is with this, kind of 1-3-1 composition. But they're going to try and take another tower now. Hook just misses.
Yeah, it's not quite enough, but that Braum ultimate does land, and in goes Andreas trying to take it. It's a 4 versus 3, and this all comes from the fact they spotted Orianna in the bottom lane after Acolyte pushed it up. But Acolyte even manages to pick up a 1 versus 1 kill on the Xin Shao in the middle lane, and this is all Team Queso dodging away from the hook. They're going to put the pressure on the tower. Not going to be able to take it because of how low health they are, but look, it's all about backing off of that Rift Herald.
Really well played again by Team Queso. Again, they're the ones with the numbers advantage in the top lane. And as you said, Acolyte getting a solo kill as well. We talk about Acolyte, we talk about the solo kills, and as you can see here, we know what he's done. We've all seen the clip from Horizon Cup where you got where you got the 1 versus 2 kill on Acolyte. So we know what this guy can do on Darius, and Andreas as well on the Fiora we've seen before as well. And we talked before this about, the kind of the lineup of Team Queso and, likes of Joey, the likes of Methanol and Veos as well. But it seems like they're fitting into the team really well at the moment.
Yeah, what they're doing is kind of like the fundamentals of MOBA really well in this game so far. Is like, so Acolyte pushed out bottom like 1 minute before. It forced Orianna to show on the wave, right as Xin Shao also shows on middle lane. So the 4-man stack in top lane, no, there can only be 3 people here. There's no way of them evening up the numbers. So we take the fight. And then Xin Shao dying 1 versus 1 shouldn't really happen there. You're just trying to play for the Rift Herald. But here we go with something else that's really not going to go the way of Supremacy. It's a lot of damage to start off for Supremacy first, though. There's the stasis to keep him alive, and Xin Shao's picked up 1, but Supremacy are going to get routed from the rest of this as Acolyte opens up the damage with Andres. They did lose Joey, but in goes Veos, trying to get 1 more kill. They're so low health targets, and yes, he manages to pick it up as Veos is ticking, but it is not enough to pick up the kill. Andres takes the drag.
Okay, Veos, I know you're trying to, embarrass me here, and you're trying to, make all these cool flashy plays of Akali that I can't do. But anyway, look about this fight. You can see at the moment, Miracle and Sentio just over by the blue buff. Really, really good shockwave by Sentio, and actually Xin Zhao knocked all the members away after the shockwave. So a little bit of miscommunication here by the GTs, but you can see Sentio on the Orianna did no damage in this team fight at all. He was completely split from the rest of the team, and yeah, Veos here on the Akali, the barrier as well, the nice little dash, and in the end, the red buff tick was not enough, and he was able to get the kill. But yeah, a little bit of miscommunication there with Essentio and Miracle, because it was a 4-man shockwave. It was a lot of damage, and if you could carry on with that damage as well, but then Miracle knocking all the members away, kind of splitting up the team for Team Queso actually helped them out a lot. But yeah, Essentio a little bit split from the team, and that's why Team Queso were able to come out on top in that team fight.
The focus on jungle from the picks and bans has left Miracle in a really tough spot. This Xin Zhao is not working 6 stats in the game because this is what happens with Xin Zhao. It's the pick either goes off or just dies, and this is a game where you just die because the rest of the enemy team are so far ahead as Andreas half health Carrot Cop in one shot of this Fiora. Xin Zhao, literally all he can do is try and deliver the Orianna ball in and hope that it does enough to actually take the kills. And grand challenge out by Fiora, half health down, it forces him away from the turret. There's now Team Queso going to try and push in for this next turret of the game.
Andreas is playing with fire right now. You can see the confidence on this player. They've got to try and get a pick in the top lane here, but just like unfortunately not doing too much there. But yeah, as mentioned already, look at Andreas. Look, he doesn't care at all. He just wants to keep going in and fighting.
Yeah, he's just going in behind towers at this point and dodges out. The hook doesn't even begin to hit him. Shockwave on 3, but look at the low damage. Chains of Corruption. This is about as good of a start of a fight as Supremacy would be looking for, but Queso was so far ahead. I just looked at the gold totals. It's nearly 15,000 gold at 12 minutes, and like, my math is normally pretty bad, but that's a rampage on Akali, and it's all about hitting him with the wallet at this point. There's literally nothing that Supremacy can do to take this game back into their favor.
No, I think they're just too far behind at this point. I think I've only ever seen a game once get to like a 20,000 gold difference at the end of the game, to be honest. We sometimes see it being really, really close to 20,000, but this could be the game that we could see like a 20,000 plus gold lead. And you can see the members of Team Queso are pinging towards the Baron now. They know they can take this. They know how far they are ahead. You can see the build, interestingly enough, as well for Joey. Now, most of the time with Morganas in the Jura lane, you'd like to see some sort of mana being built, because at the moment when you keep spamming the pool, sometimes you get really, really low on mana. You can see the Andrews combo with the Rylai's Crystal Stepfar. You can see the slows that will be coming out from Joey as well, and the amount of damage. And again, look how confident Team Queso are playing with right now. Acolyte as well.
There's some damage coming through, but Acolyte still has that barrier, and there's still that heal as soon as Grand Challenge completes. Akali goes unstoppable. It's all about Queso running through the team composition. More damage from Andreas, picks up the double kill for Veos' Akali before he ends up falling. That's 1 kill going back over, but now it's going to be the Baron for Team Queso.
Yep, Baron is going to be pretty easily taken by the side of Team Queso as well. And Andreas on this Fiora this game, I have to highlight him. Around the whole entire map, you saw the plays in Baron lane. You saw the plays as he was rotating around the map as well. And he's just playing with so much confidence. We haven't really seen Andreas for a long time, pretty much since the Horizon Cup. So we were coming into this thinking, is he still going to be the Andreas we know from last year and go back to his team fight as well? I feel like getting a little bit caught out, but I want to focus on Joey here. Joey flashes over the wall, uses the black shield to stop the chain of corruption from Varus, which was so huge. That means that, he doesn't get stunned at all with the black shield, and the flash with the root as well. Joey flashing in onto the back line as well. And we spoke about Joey. Hal spoke a little bit about Joey before this game as well. We know how talented this player is. We normally see him on the AD carries, the likes of Bane in the dual lane as well, which maybe we might see in the next game. But, he can play AP mages as well, which we haven't really seen too much of him.
Yeah, at this point in the game, Andre's 6-1-9 on the game, and nothing mysterious about this Fiora performance is going to try and push down the inhibitors. It's impossible to deal with these Baron minions, even with a Varus who typically is very good at it. But look, all the health is melting away from the side of Supremacy. Acolyte does get the blocked ultimate, so it doesn't get the reset on that Noxian execution, but Andreas still picks up another kill. Low health bar, so they might have to reset in that lane, but here comes Veos in for the kill on the top side off the Proto Belt. Now Veos is going to take tower damage, might get run down. It's a little bit messy, but a teleport is going to come back through. for Andres. He's full health again. Gonna walk these super minions through and try and push down to end the game.
Yeah, I think just fake. You don't want to be the one that wants to try and defend the tower against an Akali. You see more teleports coming now. I think Team Queso just want to end it. Yeah.
Queso, like, we won this game. Just spend all the money. Spend it all. It doesn't matter. Invest in teleports and just go in and end the game right now. That's so funny to see that happen. Queso are going to take this first game against Supremacy and assert their supremacy on this upper bracket matchup. I mean, we haven't seen Team Queso since this new lineup, but other than a few moments here or there, this is basically what we expected.
Yeah, very, very clean performance by TK. So like I said, a few, little oversteps here and there, not really focusing on the objectives that much. But in the end, we talk about that first play in the top lane, in the Baron lane, sorry. They were able to get a tower in the duo lane. They were able to get the dragon in the end as well. So yeah, a few oversteps, but Team Queso, new roster, seems like the exact same results.
Yeah, I don't even know where to begin, but I'm like, Andres cannot get Fiora in the next game.
Oh, God.
It's just, you're not allowed to do that. I mean, there's a lot of things in the draft that I really want to touch on, and it's been a really interesting weekend for how these games have gone. I think right now in Wild Rift, it feels like there's just too many power picks like this Fiora that get through. We've also seen the Garen raise in priority as well. This was banned out for this game, but like this Fiora had such good presence in the early game, even against an early game team. Like Supremacy drafted mostly for the early game and they just got shut out.
I totally agree with you. I mean, the third ban on the red side was actually towards the Garen instead of the likes of Fiora. We didn't even see Camille in this game as well. Right. Camille was banned in a second rotation. And like you said, there's so many power picks. It's all to do with these AD bruisers. The likes of Fiora, the likes of, Darius even as well, Jace, Set, Camille. There's so many AD bruisers at the moment that are so strong because of the items as well. And yeah, as you said, you can ban out champions on the side of Team Queso, but they'll pick the likes of Fiora. Andreas is comfortable. We've seen him play with Fiora as well. We've even seen Acolyte play in the top lane as well. But again, Acolyte got his comfort pick. Andreas got his comfort pick as well. And going into this, we spoke about Joe, we spoke about Methanol, how they'll kind of adapt with this new team. Will they be able to step up and be really good on this new team? And in that first game, you can see that they know what they're doing and they played so well.
It's going to be a little bit frustrating for Supremacy because, like, watching some of these fights back, the Orianna ultimates, especially the Chains of Corruption, they're landing on the targets that you want them to land on. Like, the team fighting themselves, the mechanics just aren't that bad, but, like, the gold lead is so astronomical from the jungle. Like, we saw, I think it was, like, 6 or 7 jungle bans across both sides in this game, and, like, ending up on the Xin Zhao is not a perfect situation for Miracle, and you saw how difficult it was. Playing Fiora, which is like an S-tier jungler, into Xin Zhao, which at best, in my opinion, is like B-tier in competitive. You saw how that matchup goes, and not a fun game for Miracle.
Yeah, as you can see here, 8 deaths, unfortunately, for Miracles. That's
double the gold nearly of his
it's a lot of deaths. One death on, each member on the side of Team Queso. So, everyone kind of helping out each other in a way. But Andreas, look at that, 23,000 damage overall. He was the one that ran over this entire first game. You see the damage across the board as well. Veos proving that Akali is still strong, and I'm just talking absolute rubbish, and I need to basically shut my mouth because I don't know what I'm talking about. But yeah, even the gold graph here as well, you can see steady performance, steady gold lead on the side of Team Queso. And yeah, it's going to be, on the side of Supremacy now. They're going to be the ones that have to go back to the drawing board. They got a few comfort picks in this first draft. They got the Varus, they got the Thresh as well, but it just didn't really work out for them. And we talk about the rotations as well. Team Queso were just one step ahead of them every single time on these rotations around the map.
Stu, you're with me in the no thumbs club. Like, Garen being meta for me is perfect. I'm just gonna spam Garen every single game, but Akali maybe not so much for us. We'll take the hit on that one. The play of the game. I mean, there are a few of these early game fights that could be our play of the game. But Stuart, this team fighting early game was pretty solid from Queso overall.
Yeah, we're going to go through the play of the game here. It is going to be the one around the dragon. And you can see the combination there of the shockwave and then the knockback of the Xin Zhao. I really feel like if the communication was there for Supremacy, if they landed the shockwave and then afterwards they grouped the members so Orianna could do more damage with all of her abilities. But unfortunately, the miscommunication and Gamelord in the end of Veos on this Akali were able to just wrap up the entire fight. And that really was the fight that Supremacy had the chance. They had the advantage there. They landed the shockwave. But again, just a little bit of miscommunication, and Orianna's Xin Zhao being on the other side of the wall, unfortunately, they weren't able to close it out.
Supremacy couldn't come back into that game. Queso shut the series at 1-0 so far. We'll see whether Supremacy can bounce back, but Queso will be looking at 2-0 and make their way further into this upper bracket. We'll be back with game number 2 of the series in just a few minutes.
Breathe fire, your eyes so bright, the dark will guide us through the night. Bye, bye, my love, I'll shine for you in the dark. My tribe of stars. And I breathe fire. My tribe of stars. My tribe of stars. My tribe of stars. My tribe of stars.
Welcome back to Wild Rift EMEA Championships Day 2, or as we're starting to realize, the broken top lane stream. Because I think every pick that we see get through now is like these broken top laners and junglers and bruisers in general. Like, they can at least flex between it. Fiora's broken, Garen's broken, Camille's broken, Evelyn's broken. Stuart, are you broken today after seeing that Akali performance as well?
You had to say it to Stretch. You had to bring it up again. Come on, we're done now. The game's done. You know, Akali's not going to get picked anymore. It's history now. It's fine. You know, we're talking about the League of AD Bruisers. It's all about the AD Bruisers now at the moment in Wild Rift. And yeah, you talk about already, you know, the Fiora as well. I really hope Supremacy pans Fiora for this next game, because if Andreas gets his hands on Fiora again, we could be looking at another easy 2-0. And that's not something I want. You know, 4 games. 4 2-0s. Come on, let's give us a game 3 once, please.
Yeah, give me at least one 2-1 series between this. I mean, you've heard our opinion on Bruises in the top lane. I want to hear a little bit from Hells about heading into game 2. Perhaps what you know, we can see from Supremacy bouncing back into it, or even what he thought from Queso in game 1.
Yeah, so as we're heading into the second game of the series, which is hopefully not going to be the last game, but I think it will be, let's talk about some key points about after the first game. So very aggressive early game plays by Team Queso. This was a major point that got them to their victory, but you cannot do that without a great draft. And Team Queso had an amazing draft to execute this aggressive early plays game plan. And they had that Braum, they had that mid lane Akali, they had the Fiora that were able to just constantly roam around and constantly invade. You know, the Braum's passive allowing to stun the enemy. It's just, Queso had the perfect draft to do it. But although they did, I still want to give credits to the enemy support as well, because both supports did an amazing job roaming around constantly. Both supports, Thresh and Braum, they were all over the place, helping out each other. And although Methanol did it a little better, I want to give Just Fake the credits for it as well. So those are the key points for the game. And yeah, I'm excited for the next game. Let's toss it back to Stress and Stuart to cast the next game.
Thanks, Hells. Really appreciate the insight on this series as well. I think we're seeing a lot of these roaming supports do very well. We're also seeing a lot of support bans. I don't know whether I'd even be bothered banning supports anymore. I'm just like, throw every ban at top lane and let's have dumb lanes where like nothing's broken and everybody just has to play boring champions. Because right now, letting like even one of the top laners, like Set, Garen, Camille, Fiora, some of them can be flexed to the jungle as well. Leaving them too open just means that you end up losing top lane. It all goes well be right.
Yeah, I think you can kind of count all the OP AD bruisers with both your hands, to be fair. There's probably 10, maybe even more, you know, strong AD bruisers at the moment. So when you're playing on red side, which Team Queso looks like they are on the red side now, and Supremacy is on the blue side. So we'll see how the draft will adapt. But again, we're going to go through the same sort of thing again. You know, we're going to see the Jace, we're going to see the Set ban. I think the interesting part we're going to be looking at is the third ban for Team Queso. We saw Supremacy ban out the Garen third, but now it's going to be, you know, who's Team Queso going to be banning third? And then on the side of Supremacy, we're going to be seeing what are the bans that Supremacy are going to do, because they have a bit more flexibility. And you can see Camille, they don't want to first pick the Camille, so maybe they have a plan in mind already as what they want as a first pick.
Jace off the board, because I think that's one of those picks that in the lane can still oppressively bully out any melee matchup, like taking that, and then Jace just has damage throughout the rest of the game. So while he doesn't fit that profile so much of like the Garen, the Fiora, he just has damage and he's just too strong right now, so everyone's banning him on red side. Lee Sin gonna be banned away. I like that. You know, we saw Andres on an aggressive early game jungler, or I say early game, he was aggressive in the early game on a jungler like Fiora, who still has power, so taking some of that away. Set probably gonna be banned. Ooh, it's actually Morgana on red side. Interesting.
Yeah, I think this is a little bit of a bait by Team Queso. You're now, you know, Team Queso are like, okay, Supremacy, are you going to ban Set? Or are we going to actually ban Set? Do you know what we're going to ban? It is going to be that Fiora banned away. No surprises, really, to be fair. You know, Andreas completely ran over the first game, and now, is it Set? Is it not Set? Is it, you know, you've still got the likes of Garen open, as you said, as well. They're not going to ban either. And now this is the great thing about red side as well, which makes things really, really interesting, because you give one pick over to Supremacy, but then you can take two on the side of Team Queso at the same time. So now Supremacy is like, what do you prioritize?
And Supremacy prioritized Varus in the last game really highly. I was wondering whether they would first pick it, which would have been, you know, an older meta that we were expecting to come into today, but no, it will be the Set. I think you have to take it away. Do you just let Garen through as a real risk and just decide to play the Darius? You have to pick it in the first, in that third rotational spot then, if you're going to do it. That's an Olaf immediately. I guess, yeah, I mean, Set can't pick you up, but like this is a high priority on Olaf for a champion we don't normally see, at least like this high up.
Yeah, very high priority, and a high priority on Braum as well. We're seeing a lot of Methador on Braum as well. So these are two picks that we were not expecting. You talk that the Varus is open, the Garen's open, even like so Diana are open as well. Now, you know, on the side of Supremacy, they could go for something like maybe a Garen and a Varus, but they do have to be very, very careful because that means they're going to be very, very AD heavy, which means that Team Queso on the second part of the bans, they can ban the likes of Diana as well. We do see the Garen come into play. Now, there's one thing I want to mention about this entire draft. I'm going to be talking about Joey again. Joey is known for his Vayne, and we see already that they are two big, big tanks on the side of Supremacy. We've seen it before, and even Thresh as well as another tank. So we're not going to be seeing Varus. We're not going to be seeing Diana as a priority as well. But I think on the side of Team Queso, I think they're completely fine with this. So they're just going to say, okay, we're just going to ban the Diana away. You have to play an AP mage somewhere, but where are you going to play it?
So one option here would be Darius, is the matchup that we heard Patterson talk about earlier in the interview he did with you. I know that in solo queue, we talked about this before the broadcast a little bit, like, I was going to say Kennen is an option, but not so much in pro play. Darius, I think, makes total sense. Like, it's Acolyte's pick. We could put money on that being the actual one. So now we look towards bans. I mean, Supremacy, I hope they know Joey well enough to just be like, okay, ban the Vayne and force him to do something else, because that's one way of dealing with it now that we're into second phase of the draft.
Yeah, you already have three really, really strong bruisers and tanks on the side of Supremacy, and you know it could be a pocket pick for Joey that he could bring out as well. It's going to be really interesting to see what happens. But there's the Varus ban, so you don't want to be dealing with that over the side of Team Queso as well. Diana is still open. We normally see Diana banned on the second phase, not really on the first phase too much. Normally on the second phase is we talk about bruisers, you know, we've already got 4 bruisers, we got the supports as well. So now we're looking at, you know, what's the dual lane player is going to be. Morgana is banned as well, so Joey's going to have to come up with something else. But I think the AP mages are the huge part of this second part of the draft now, because if Joey does play like a Vayne in the mid lane, you need, you know, a sort of AP mage. And the same on the side of Supremacy as well, they need some sort of AP damage. Supremacy, interesting enough, are the ones that ban out Diana. Now, Orianna is still available as well. We've spoken to Helzer, you know, Helzer normally mentions it as well about banning Diana, picking the Orianna as well. They don't have first pick as well, so they might fall into a little bit of a trap.
Yeah, a couple of picks available as well. And one thing I want to say is, like, we saw Ruiz play Olaf in the middle lane. I don't think that's going to be the way, because then if Joey were to pick AD, it'd be triple AD in the carry roles outside of jungle. And we do not see AP junglers particularly frequently. In Wild Rift, there are a couple available, but they generally don't make themselves available in competitive. Ziggs banned away. Now, this is like a pick that has had a lot of prominence from that bottom lane. Less so when we've had some of the bruisers, because Ziggs is like consistent damage output against tanks is not quite so strong. So we've seen him fall down the priority quite a bit, especially with the likes of Camille. Corki actually falling all the way to that last ban. I hadn't even considered that as one of the picks here that we might have seen. Now is it Vayne time for Joey?
Yeah, they might leave maybe the pick till last. They might pick their mid laner here. They might pick someone like an Orianna that can flex as well. Orianna is still open and available, and that would be kind of my prediction as the way this draft is going to go for Team Queso. There are some other picks as well. Is it going to be like another AD champion? Is it going to be Joey's Vayne? We'll have to wait and find out. And it's actually Brand. Now,
technically flex.
Yeah, it technically flex. I think most of the time we do see Brand in that dual lane, to be honest. We don't really see a lot of Brand in the mid lane at all. No. So most likely this will be going to Joey. But as you said, there is that small possibility that it could be flexed into the mid lane. And now, Supremacy, what AP mages are you going to pick now? It has to be the Orianna, surely.
Yeah, you'd think so. Yeah, there we go. Now we get to see, do they pick... I mean, if you're anticipating a Vayne here, you have to go for some kind of like early game / AoE. We saw Vayne against Kai'Sa yesterday, and Kai'Sa just never got into the game fast enough to actually compete with the Vayne. Ooh. So Yasuo likely mid lane, would you say? Or yeah. I mean, we'll see when they swap around. So Yasuo going towards the mid lane, Orianna maybe is that bottom lane carry. How does that deal with the potential Vayne pick here as the last one for Joey?
Yeah, I honestly don't think it's going to be a Vayne pick. If it's a Vayne pick, that I'll be very, very excited for this second game. I think it will be Brand down in the dual lane. But Yasuo, very, very interesting pick. We haven't really seen too much Yasuo just yet. There's not really anything really to block on the side, and it's going to be Renekton. Now, I mean, both sides of these drafts are very, very interesting because it could be flexed around in either way.
Yeah, I mean, Yasuo is pretty good against things, obviously, with the wind wall that you can block, but then, like, you can pick melee matchups into him, and as long as you're tanky enough, you can survive through the majority. Could be Renekton mid, likely Olaf in the jungle, I imagine. You're right on the brand going down into the bottom lane, so there's a decent amount of skirmish power out of Team Queso, but Supremacy, like, they have some really, really good picks that we've seen presence from with the Garen, with the Set, the Orianna, so there's quite a lot here. Like, that ball can also set up the last breath from Yasuo, so Supremacy have a pretty good skirmish composition of their own, right?
I actually want to see what a synergy and what it's like when you suplex someone, and then when you last breath, does a champion still follow the suplex, or does it get put in place by the last breath, and does it stay in place? I'm not actually too sure how the interaction works. Maybe we'll see going into this second game. But as you said, you know, both these teams have got really, really strong comps, and we'll have to see how this second game does go. Supremacy, they have to win this game. Is do or die now. Well, not really do or die, because they can still go down to lower bracket, but then they don't really want to go down to lower bracket, and Team Queso, they're going to look to try and be as clean as the first one.
Yeah, it is a double elimination bracket, of course, so even the loser of this series has one more chance in this section of the tournament. We're in the top 16 of the open bracket playoffs, and I mean, we've already seen 3 very strong teams advance with Zero Zone, Viv, Esports, and Gamelord. Team Queso are looking to make their way through the upper bracket as well. One more win would put them up against Gamelords in our next phase of the competition, but as we load onto the Rift for game number 2, it is Supremacy that'll be looking to bounce back and make the series a 1-1, and this has been an odd draft compared. I feel like Supremacy got some really strong picks, and like I wasn't expecting Brand to be really a pick that has any prominence in this draft. So I feel like Queso maybe in that sense have a slightly weaker bot lane than they would have expecting.
Yeah, I think the main thing that Sensio has to look out for here on the Yasuo is you need to win wall all the damage from the Brand, especially the ultimate as well. If Yasuo can win wall the bounces and everything, and oh my god, Sensio already!
Acolyte is getting run down in this lane. We heard Patterson talk about how Darius can be a matchup that plays into Garen, but it looks like the early game matchup still goes in Garen's favor as he's able to get a lot of damage from hitting level 2 first against Acolyte. Forced out the barrier, Sancho, and used the Ignite as well. Looked to pick up the kill, couldn't quite get it.
I remember in the interviews, not the interview section, but like the video beforehand, when they were asking players who's their worst champion they hate to play against, and Joey said Garen. So we're gonna have to see what Joey's gonna be like against this Garen. But you can see this mid lane match at the moment. Oh my god, so much damage for Veos, but Miracle's here as well.
Yeah, Miracle's looking for the pick-off in mid lane, and Veos just in enough time to get onto top side. Not able to connect to his Miracle. That's an Ignite early on, and now Miracle's in a really bad position, as that's Methanaut coming into the lane as well, looking for that Braum passive to stun more members in Team Queso. They've already got the first kill for First Blood. They will back away and take this bottom trap.
Yeah, a little bit of an overextension there for Miracle, but Acolyte, oh, he gets the solo kill, and there is the Darius versus Garen matchup.
Yeah. It's gonna continue as Thresh is gonna drop bot side. It's a solo bolo for Team Queso. Acolyte showing his Darius plays.
Absolute disastrous start for Supremacy. We were talking about the draft and these early skirmishes that we were talking about as well. And Veos, we don't get to see it, unfortunately. We're going to go back to the replay. But yeah, it's little skirmishes here in the mid lane. You can see again the Braum passive and this Methanaut as well, roaming with the Braum passive, which could be so strong in the early game, being able to catch off the members. And as you can see, they were fighting over the Scuttle Crab as well. And again, look, the Braum passive again. They're just jumping in, trying to get the Braum passive back as much as possible. And unfortunately, just like overextends just a little bit with Flash not available. It was a nice and easy kill. It doesn't look like Sensio was able to kill Veos in the mid lane. I think it was still 3-0 beforehand. So luckily we didn't miss anything.
What happened was I saw right as we went into the replay, Veos actually got level 5, and I think Sensio was like, he's got Dominus, I'm never going to kill him, I don't have Ignite. So I think really fortuitous experience timing for Veos to get the ultimate there, right as he was playing very risky. Now up into top lane, it's going to be a kill for Acolyte, surely, as he's going to knock C and Execution. Does get blocked for some of the damage down.
That interaction is so funny. I can't help it. But bot lane as well, though.
Yeah, Shockwave comes through, and there's further damage from this Brand as Joey Skaggs and Methanaut pick up one in the bottom lane.
I'm very sorry. I just love the interaction. When Set tries to suplex an Olaf and he becomes, you know, unstoppable, he just suplexes it by himself. It's like, oh, there's no one with me. I'm just doing like this crazy move for no reason. But yeah, the bot lane of the Team Queso doing really, really well to catch out the members in the end. The top lane as well. Acolyte again on the Darius, that 2v2 situation. We're going to see this bot lane fight again to see what really happened again. It's really the bomb passive again. And you can see that if you don't know with Wild Rift, funny enough, is that with Brand, I think this is in PC League as well, actually. I think they changed it. But Brand's ultimate can actually bounce off of himself as well. So even if there are no members on the side of Supremacy that are near a target, if Brand can at least stay close to the target, it can just keep bouncing back and forth and back and forth. And as you can see, you know, the bot lane of Team Queso, the new bot lane for Team Queso as well, Joey and Methodor, showing that they could be up there as one of the best.
Yeah, I'm going to go back and watch the VOD for what actually happened on that interaction with the Darius. I was ready for him to Noxie an execution and jump into this guy and get the kill, but like Sandarin didn't quite die and then finish off. I was like, did that get blocked somehow? Yeah, sometimes my eyes deceive me in some of these skirmishes. Ooh. So Acolyte, nevertheless, though, we see him on the Darius a whole bunch. Like, here's where this skirmish might very well pay off for Queso, because they've got the ultimate on the on the Brand available, I should say. Acolyte flash into the apprehend. Suplex comes through, but the damage is not quite there to get the kill off it exactly, and there's the first kill. Shockwave is good, but there's no real follow-up damage. Joey Skaggs ends up falling, but 2 of Supremacy die as well.
Yeah, 2 for 1 over to the side of Team Queso. They're the one with the advantage as well, and they use a Rift Herald in the mid lane, and this is just going to be a complete free mid lane tower. There's no one here to defend at all. Rift Herald is going to be like, thank you very much. Shelly's just going to go back to the shell and back to his spawn after he dies away. And there you go, first tower of the game over to Team Queso. And looking back at this replay, you know, Miracle trying to jump in as well. But with Set, you can do this because you do have the Haymaker. You can see the shields as well with Joey getting caught in the end. But unfortunately, there's just not that much damage on the side of Supremacy, especially when you have the likes of Orianna that wants to scale. But in the bot lane, Supremacy, they do find the pick that they wanted, and they do find a little bit of advantage here, and they can look to try and take a tower for themselves, or even the Dragon.
Okay, so I'm sensing a pattern with Queso that Veos loves to play down in the solo lane alone when objectives are being focused. That's the second game in the row where he's like, I'm going to push the tower. And then something has happened on the other side of the map. So characteristic around this time of the game that I think the better teams will punish even harder, because like Queso just lose a player and they're right onto the objective and taking it. Like, that shouldn't happen. When you lose a player, you should lose the objective off it. But Queso was so far ahead already that they're able to just take Dragon.
Yeah, I mean, it was Supremacy as well, the ones that actually started the Rift Hold last time as well, and they're the ones that got caught out themselves, and you can see the rotations again, and this is kind of the problem when you lose mid lane tower. And Sanji, I don't know if this is one you want to take, but Supremacy had a numbers advantage there, but not going to go too aggressive just yet. But yeah, look at the mid lane. You can see the mid lane is just getting pushed in. They're just losing all this experience and minions, but they're trying to fight.
Methanord is going to block a ton of damage. Veos as well. He's got that enrage bar filled up. Will get the first kill as he takes Thresh. It will trade 2 kills either side, though. That was because of the numbers advantage in favor of Supremacy. So 2 kills go over to the Orianna as we're taking a look at Acolyte now down in the bottom lane. He's holding 1,500 gold, so he does need to go back and shop sometime soon.
Yeah, I don't really know why Team Queso took the fight in the top lane, in the Baron lane. It was really interesting. It was 3 versus 2. Maybe they thought that they have a numbers advantage on the other side of the map, so they can get that advantage. They did take the bot lane tower as well, so it's 2 towers to 0 at the moment. But that's not really a fight you want to take, you know, 3 versus 2. You do have the Bronze passive. You do have like the dominance as well, which is really, really strong on Renekton. And you can be really, really tanky. And like I said, maybe they were kind of just trying to be a distraction for the rest of their team, but in the end, a bit of an even trade, to be honest. They did lose 2 members to 1, but they did take that bot lane tower as well. And you can see the rotations around the map at the moment. 4 members, sometimes maybe even 5 members now going over to the bot side of the map. But Team Queso like, okay, we're just going to take the 3rd outer tower. And that's going to be 3 towers to 0 now for Team Queso.
And I mean, Andre's just looking so strong once again. 2,500 gold up on the jungle counterpart of Miracle, and it has gone so well in Queso's favor from this jungle matchup. I mean, last game he had the Fiora, and we're like, okay, Fiora's a very strong pick. He gets that early on. This time it's first rotation Olaf, and he's like crushing this game. Like, Andres is definitely a player to watch from Queso.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, people know how well he is already, and like he's just going in.
Oh, he's running this Garen down, going under the tower with the ultimate on. Is going to be able to, well, won't be able to get away. We'll get shut down. But look, the rest of the team are just dunking. Veos is pushing top lane. There's a kill in the bottom lane. Olaf's diving towers in the middle lane. It's scrappy from Queso, but I think it's because they know how far ahead they are. And now Veos is going to get one kill, back himself away. Joey Skaggs is here. It's only the support here that's just fake. Isn't low enough to be taken down, but it's all Queso. Very scrappy, but they're still way ahead.
I feel like I'm getting a bit of a deja vu really from the first series of the day, you know, Team Queso knowing how strong they are individually and know how far they're ahead. They're kind of limit testing a little bit, you could say, in a way, and Brom didn't cancel back unfortunately because of the Yasuo passive shield, so a bit of an interesting interaction that you can know now. If you do have a shield on you, then you won't get, your recall won't get cancelled, so that's one little interaction that maybe some of you can learn a thing or two off. But yeah, as I said, you know, Team Queso is so far ahead, 8,000 plus gold lead at the moment. And yeah, they're just, you know, like I said, they're just pretty much limit testing. They know how strong they are at the moment. They know how far ahead they are. They've taken the Rift Herald. They're going to look to try and use a Rift Herald mid lane as well now. And yeah, we're going to look to see how cleanly they can close out this game.
Yeah, they. When we say cleanly, it's not going to be very, but they're still going to try and close it out as Andre is running through mid lane. There's a shockwave. This is the combination that they were looking for. Here comes the picks from Supremacy, and this is the damage. But oh, that's low health targets. One kill already for Acolyte. He can't quite get into the back line for more, but he has that ultimate available for the Noxian Execution. Doesn't get the second reset, and actually gets punished by Sander. And oh, the tiniest of health to survive. It's messy. It's messy for Queso, but it's so fun to watch. As Sander, and he's on the long road to try and get out of this one, as Garen is going to distract.
The kings themselves, this could last a long time. I think Sanji is very tanky. You can see he's just eating up everything, but he could probably turn this, to be honest, and try and kill Andreas. But no, unfortunately not. He is going to die at the end. But that mid lane interaction with the, you know, the Garen, the God Kings themselves, you know, Noxus against the Marcion, Darius versus Garen. That's the sort of fights that you love to see with the lore of League of Legends, what we know and love. And the Lantern away there, but yeah, as you mentioned, it is very, very messy on the side of Team Queso at the moment, but Supremacy are finding picks, they're finding kills to get themselves back in the game. Let's see
now Queso are finding picks though, because Miracle's down, Sancherin still hasn't respawned, Dragon is going to go over their way, and they're going to continue to stomp their authority on the game.
Yeah. I did kind of cast a curse there for a second. I was like, oh yeah, this Supremacy have a chance to go back into this game. But yeah, you can see here, they did get the perfect combo. You can see the shockwave here, onto the last breath, really strong combo, into the suplex as well. So they got the combo, and they were trying to overextend. Unfortunately, Tornado missed here. But look at this, Acolyte is where he comes in. He gets one kill. Obviously, if he got one more kill as well, he could have got a triple and even a quadra. But he did overextend a little bit. But you can see both of them dunking at the exact same time. You see the dunk of the Darius, but the Marcia wins this time. Garen's the one who comes out on top, and he did die eventually. I thought the replay would have cut off there because we might have been waiting for another like 3 minutes until we saw Sanji die as well. But Sanji could be the one getting caught himself.
Yeah, caught out again. He's going to get locked down. This time it should be an easy pickoff, but he actually manages to survive again. Like, this guy's like got 9 lives. That's the worst feeling as a Darius, where you've got your first kill and you're like, this is an easy quadra. And then like you misjudge the damage by like 10 and you're like, oh no. Well, he's going to die eventually, but just helping, just fake helping the Rift Herald to direct this onto the tower. There's the kill in mid lane. But again, look at Queso going low. Like, this is so scrappy. They're just throwing everything
up lane as well.
Supremacy. This dunk doesn't work either. Top lane dunk works. Queso are going to try and tidy this one up. I mean, Queso, they're so low. Can you just don't take these fights? They're so low. You don't need to be doing this. You're so far ahead. Oh, the style hook gets it. I mean, Supremacy are holding on for now. Baron's up to 24. They can't take it immediately for Queso, so there are still opportunities to come back. And I know people can hear us probably laughing a little bit with this game because Queso are so far ahead, but there is a real possibility for later this game goes. If Supremacy hit another one of these fights, could work to well backfire on Queso.
Exactly. I mean, you get to the stage of the game as we look back at the replay here. You see how tanky Garen is. I think I'm with Joey on this one. You know, Garen is just so annoyed to play again. Unfortunately, he wasn't able to kill Brom in the end. But you can see the, kind of like you said, the style hook in the end. You can see how much damage Orion is dealing as well. And yeah, why Team Queso fight? What is Team Queso doing? Like, they're taking these crazy fights that they're so low on health, and like you said,
Got him.
we are kind of laughing a little bit, but these sorts of games are so fun to watch sometimes. But yeah, in Wild Rift, if Supremacy can find one team fight now and take the Baron, they can easily come back into this game. If you don't know from Wild Rift, you come from PC League. The Wild Rift games don't last 40 minutes, so when you get to about 30 minutes at this stage of the game, you're pretty much a late game, and you'll get like 40-50 second death timers. So if Supremacy can win one team fight, they can easily get back into this game, and Queso needs to be a little bit careful.
Yeah, and as soon as Garen shows bot lane, it's all about running down the mid lane. Good shockwave, but there's no follow-up. They're not able to do any more. Karakot, maybe it could have set Sensio up, but look, the damage comes out from Set. It's not quite enough to do much to Queso, as they are going to drag the rest of Supremacy into the fight. I don't think they need Baron either. Once they're playing clean, once they're playing that controlled pace, Queso are able to take this first inhibitor, but Queso goes down to the bot lane. The rest of the team will rotate out to the top side.
Yeah, I thought maybe they could finish there, but maybe they just don't want to play too aggressive. They played probably too aggressive for this entire game already. So like, yeah, we're just going to play it a little bit passive. And interesting enough, I don't know if we can look at the items really quickly. I think Andreas has Serena's Grudge on Olaf, which is very interesting. He actually does, which is not really an item we see on Olaf. Like, I saw when he used his third ability, I can't remember the name off the top of my head, it was slowing blue buff, and I was like, wait a second, what? He has Serena's Grudge, which, if you don't know, Serena's Grudge allows your abilities to slow. The first ability already slows. I'm not really too sure if it kind of stacks the slows in a way on the first ability. I'm not really too sure how the interaction works, but yeah, you can use his third ability as well.
It also counts on attacks, right? And
not on attacks, it's just abilities. Just abilities it all count towards. So it's like, the Piercing Arrow by Varus, for example, but it won't work on his auto attacks.
I've been playing with Sorelda's Grudge totally wrong then, so thank you for enlightening me on that one. I've been assuming I'm slowing. So I basically only play Ashe. Yeah, the slows come through as they push down in the bottom lane, and they're going to keep moving through. Queso have the Baron buff. It's really difficult with this composition for Supremacy to actually clear the waves. They have to basically stand in them to clear them out, and that's exactly what Queso want them to do. As Acolyte is going to try and push through on Sanjarin in the top side. The box has been used bottom lane, but Set's already dead here. Shockwave only hits on one, and even if they can convert that into the kill, the rest of Team Queso are going to be here to mop up the enemies. Acolyte picks up one with the dunk. The turret has already gone down. Low health bars, but it doesn't really matter because Queso, they're going to take this game 2-0. They're going to take the series and advance to face Gamelords. Although these are very low, I don't think it's enough. But one more dunk from Acolyte as Queso shut the series out 2-0. They will face Gamelords in the next round of the upper bracket. That is going to be a really hype match.
Yeah, that's going to be one that we're going to have to look out for in the second half of the bracket. But moving back to this game, Team Queso in the end, a little bit sloppy, a little bit of limit testing here and there as well. But overall, coming into this tournament and coming into the playoffs, we knew that Team Queso had a new roster, and we knew that Supremacy had a few players as well on their team that can be on the same level as Team Queso. But Team Queso just showing as a team how well they can play together. Kind of leaving Veos on a little bit of an island in the end as well. You spoke about it during the game as well. Sometimes they leave Veos down kind of on the opposite side of the map to kind of bring that source of pressure as well. And for the full members on the side of Team Queso, Joey and Methanaut down the bot lane as well. Really, really strong performance as we hope to get through the highlights of the previous game. But yeah, stress overall, a great performance.
Yeah, a good performance from Team Queso. I mean, we expected them to be the team that would come out ahead. I don't mind that it was a bit sloppy. I'd rather them get this out of the way before that they're tougher opponents, because like Gamelord will punish you if you do this against them. So I mean, it's a good time to get testing in the meta, get a few limit tests going on. I don't mind it so much. It kind of made it a little bit more of an entertaining series than if it had just been the 2-0. Like, Gamelord were fun to watch in our first series of the day because they were so clean. Queso were fun to watch because they were so messy, and I love it. Like, it's a lot more like back and forth fights, so you're not quite sure who's actually going to take it. But nevertheless, it was never really out of Queso's control, even when it was messy.
Yeah, like you said, even though it was messy, it was still Team Queso in full control throughout the entire game. I think they always had like above a 10,000 goal lead, even though they were kind of testing their limits a little bit. You can see here that sometimes they do step a little bit too deep, and this clip is just so funny. Demacia against Noxus, Aaron comes out on top in the end. But on the side of Supremacy, now they're going to go down to the lower bracket and they're going to face Aphelion. Kind of the same of yesterday in the end, 2-0s. Unfortunately, we don't get to 2-1, so we haven't really seen, kind of the the plus sides, I guess, of these 4 teams now that are going to be in the lower side of the bracket. So again, that's why it makes a lower bracket for me. Kind of the really, really interesting part is Aphelion versus Supremacy, and then we have the other game as well, which is Tigers against, I can't remember the other team off the top of my head, in the other lower side of the bracket as well. And it makes it really, really interesting because all these teams got beat 2-0, which means they kind of have to go back to the drawing board. But again, going into, I think it's the 3rd week as well, we're going to be seeing what they're going to be, coming up, and hopefully they'll be able to get it. And Methanol in the end, come on. I mean, we know that you were going to win the game, but really, four stingers? Really? Do you have to do that?
You said the name. I was about to say that just stings. That's... Stuart, you beat me to my joke. I was going to go for it. Honestly, I'm looking at Andres as like one of the players here. I feel bad for Miracle because like his stats really just kind of like make it look like an individual thing. But on these picks, when you're behind, like on a Xinjiao, on a set, like you cannot do anything. They're not like when I say they're not playmakers, I mean Lee Sin is always going to have the ability to find a carry and kick them. Set can kind of do it with his ultimate, but you have to just run in. You have to just tank a ton of damage on the way in, and if you die before you get there because the enemy has just like farmed gold from everywhere else on the map, like it's really hard to do anything. And I want to see Miracle in a more even matchup. I think this game, like Supremacy, was just outclassed. I'm not ready to write Miracle off yet. I want to see more from this team, as you said, against some opposition perhaps that is easier for them to play against.
Yeah,
I think the meta we've seen evolve quite a lot over the course of this weekend. And player of the game, this is the one that nearly went backfiring on Queso.
Yeah, they landed a combo there on the side of Supremacy. Shockwave into Last Breath into the suplex as well for the set. But yeah, this is just Team Queso just showing how well they can play. And like I'm pretty sure I'm gonna go back and watch that clip about 10 times again because just so fun to see the Darius against Gary, the God Kings as well. But yeah, in the end, Team Queso, like you said, just as level above Supremacy. And it's going to be interesting to see how Supremacy come up against Aphelion, that lower side of the bracket.
Yeah, I mean, we got some really exciting matchups coming up. I'm glad to see Queso living up to our expectations in some way. As you said, coming into it being I'll put it in the way of like defending champions. Of course, this is the first official season of the Wild Rift EMEA Championship, so it's kind of like tangentially champions. They won, obviously, Origin Series, went to Horizon Cup, and when they were on that world stage, that Queso lineup unfortunately didn't have the results that they wanted to, but we're going to have to keep our eyes on Queso and see whether they can advance to the global stage once again. For now, we're going to go over to Hells, who has one of the Queso players for an interview.
All right. What's up, Joey? Happy to have you here. You guys a dominating performance. You guys absolutely destroyed the enemy. And the first thing that I want to start up with is, are you already feeling 100% confident with this new fresh lineup of Team Queso?
Well, we actually haven't been playing together for that long. We had some roster shuffles for I bet you a month where we didn't really know our exact 5 people. But I think we've been playing as 5 together for maybe, 2 weeks, a bit over 2 weeks. But I'm already really happy with our progress. We're definitely improving pretty rapidly, I'd say. And yeah, I'm just looking forward to the future, but no way we're even close to 100%.
Wow, that's impressive because you played so well, and you're saying you were nowhere close to 100%. But did you expect to steamroll the enemy so hard, even though you're nowhere near 100%?
Well, I knew that we would be better. I think first game we were really, really serious in a way. We were really, really serious. Second game, after we got our lead, I think we kind of had a bit of fun, I'd say. Like, not intentionally, but I think a little bit of fun came out. But yeah, I think we expected to win pretty easily.
Okay, and now I'm going to ask you the question. You'll be playing up against Gamelord next, and you're both known to be the best teams in Europe. How do you feel matching up against them?
I think they're definitely very strong. I respect them very much. I think we have a good shot to beat them. I would say it's going to be close. I think it could go either way, to be honest with you. But I think on the right day, with the right amount of preparation in the next 2 weeks, I think we can for sure beat them.
Yeah, I'll be rooting for you. So thank you so much, Joey, for the interview. Good luck for the future games. And we're going to be going back to Stress and Stuart for the post game.
Thank you.
We're finding out that Hells is a Queso stand. That's what I'm learning. Every moment Hells is like Queso. It's good. It's fine. I don't mind that. I like it when we have some flavor to the broadcast in that. Good to hear that they're not at 100%. And I don't mean that in any negative way. I just think that like they're already at a good level fundamentally, that like it's about tidying things up. I think when we look at who's MVP of this series, it's really obvious to me. Queso played well. I'm just going to say it wasn't a one-person carry job, but Andres looked on another level.
We know Andreas. We've seen him before at the Horizon Cup. We've seen him in other tournaments as well. And this player is by far one of the best junglers. And in the first game, you can see his hands in Fiora. But you can see him play other champions as well. He doesn't need to be on the likes of Fiora as well. And overall, just a solid performance by Andreas, and showing that, you know, even though we haven't seen him for a long time, and as Joey said as well, which I think is the really surprising part for the interview as well, is that as we welcome back Hells as well, welcome back. You know, with that interview with Joey, it's interesting to see they've only played together for 2 weeks and they already look this strong. So if you think if they play together for a few months or even a few more weeks, they can, you know, get that synergy together and they could be really strong.
Yeah, it's going to be a really good series with that Gamelord matchup coming up. We're not quite there yet. We've got a lot of teams, and I think it's time for us to switch our focus on to the second half of the bracket. When you look at, like, we've seen the first half of the round of 16. Now we get to look at a few other teams, like we've got WREC. I'm sure the WREC players are going to be frothing at the mouth for next week's matchups, but 2-0s all over this week was a little bit unfortunate, I'm going to be honest. I think we had some fun matchups, but looking at the bottom side of that, WREC are in our very first matchup of next week. We've got Na'Vi down there, we've got Formulation, we've got Mood, we've got KTRL, we've got Dark. There's big names down there. Hells, any like strong teams you're expecting to come out of that second half of the bracket?
I mean, definitely WREC and Na'Vi, right? It's like basically the same games as we had today, 2-0s. We're expecting that. And with the games that we have after that, Dark and Control, those are going to be the fun series. And Formulation against Mood Gaming, I feel like those are going to be the more fun series, to see those teams that are not as known yet and see what they have to deliver to the board. And then after that, they're going to be ending up against either Natus or WREC.
Yeah, exactly. Like Na'Vi and WREC are two of the strong teams. We've seen a little bit of the lower bracket already. We've seen, of course, Principality, Vigors, Aphelion, and Supremacy. There was some strength in there. Unfortunately, I think they drew some of the toughest competition, especially Aphelion and Supremacy. I don't think we saw too much from. So again, it's going to be a couple of weeks before we actually see these teams back out onto the Rift as well. But there's some prep time. There's some time to reset yourselves, as we're going to see WREC and Na'Vi on day one. Some big games. You already mentioned it. Team Dark and KTRL Control in our last matchup of next weekend. Stuart, this is going to be such a banger weekend as well. Every weekend of games is great. Like, which matchup for you takes the top spot? I feel like it's a KTRL one, right? Yeah,
for sure. The KTRL one. Me and Hells both know Polish Onion Komoto in the support role as well, so we're going to be keeping our eyes on him. But yeah, I think the second day is definitely a lot more competitive, as Hells has said already. The first day, but we get to see more Titans as well. We get to see WREC.GG, how their new roster is going to do. We're going to see Na'Vi as well, who they looked really strong in previous tournaments as well. But yeah, for me, it's the second day. It's the Sunday part of next weekend. It's them teams that we don't really know too much about, and they're going to be coming up against each other. We're going to see who's going to be playing the likes of WREC and Na'Vi in the next rounds.
I want to say something though. I want to add something. Control is on a boot camp, so they're going to be together, and they have a coach as well. They're all together right now. They're making some plans, so I definitely have high expectations coming from a team like Control.
That is good to know. We still got another week before we will see Control take to the Rift. The insane thing is that only one of these teams that we've seen so far is going to get that automatic spot into the grand finals in Barcelona. Yep. All of the rest of them are going to have to compete their way through this bracket and then through the last chance qualifier. So I think it's too early to tell, but like the strong teams that we've seen already are so unbelievably strong. Very fun to watch as well. I think that's one of my favorite things about it. Yes, we've had some stomps, but we have seen some good games already. I can't believe I'm saying it. It's the end of the first weekend of the Wild Rift EMEA Championships. Thank you very much, Stuart. Thank you very much, Hells. This has been a very fun weekend of games. We'll be back next week with even more Wild Rift action for Europe. We'll catch you next week.